Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening, Katakuri said solemnly. I'll go. King, upon seeing this, said solemnly. What's the point of grabbing this kind of thing? Everyone who has it is the same. Katakuri shook his head and said. No. It's not the same. After hearing Katakuri's words, King couldn't help but raise his eyebrows, while Queen took the cigarette out of his mouth and said in a deep voice. What's the difference? My observation hockey can predict the future, you must know that too, right? Katakuri said. King and Queen looked at each other with evasive expressions. Katakuri sneered. You beast pirates must have been secretly investigating our Big Mom pirates, and as a commander, you naturally know the information. Without getting tangled up in this topic, Katakuri continued. I suspect that this air cannon has the ability to foresee the future that observation hockey protects. No. To be precise, it should interfere with the prediction of observation hockey, so I want to try it myself. Just now, Katakuri did not predict Doflamingo's death, and his observation hockey did not move at all. As soon as these words came out, everyone was surprised. King's eyes were slightly open, a little unbelievable. Queen also said TSK. How could it have such a capability? Even Big Mom seemed surprised. She looked at her son and said. Katakuri, then it's up to you to try it. She wants to see if this is true, just like everyone else. Katakuri stopped talking nonsense, nodded, and approached the opposite side of Doflamingo 50 meters away. After seeing that Katakuri was ready, Doflamingo stopped hesitating and began to inject physical strength into the air cannon, as well as his armament hockey. By inputting physical strength and hockey at the same time, Doflamingo was a little surprised by this little thing's absorption capacity. This thing also fits on his index finger, but it can absorb so much, like a bottomless pit. Originally, this thing actually had a threshold. The power is limited. After the input reached the limit, Doflamingo already had sweat on his forehead. This made waves in his heart. This absorption limit is really a bit terrifying. After exhaling slowly, he looked at Katakuri and said. Are you ready? Katakuri silently nodded. After speaking, Katakuri's eyes became fixed, and now that he has prepared in advance, he should be able to avoid or block it. However, although Katakuri felt that he was stronger than Doflamingo, he had no confidence in his heart just after seeing the damage caused to his body. No. It's the resistance of Kaido and his terrifying hockey that was injected into the air cannon. It's different from Doflamingo. That's what Katakuri thought. However, when his thoughts were still running, his eyes suddenly violently contracted and he saw that the air cannon had been activated. The terrifying torrent of power swept through, and the vibrating air made a sonic boom. Katakuri was horrified and exclaimed. It's really blocking the use of my observation hockey. Doflamingo ignited the air cannon, but he didn't feel anything at all. Katakuri saw Doflamingo launching the air cannon with the naked eye. In the moment he saw it, he knew he couldn't stop it and didn't react in advance. He was too reluctant to resist from a distance of 50 meters. He was about to dodge it in an instant, but his body simply didn't move. The attack pierced straight through his heart. That's right. Through his body. Katakuri's pupils trembled and he looked at his chest. Although the power of this blow was not as terrifying as Kaido's, it still caused him fatal damage. You must know that he used armament hockey. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth and finally fell to the ground. The self-proclaimed man whose back never touches the ground landed on his back. Everyone was horrified. Big Mom repeatedly exclaimed. He really failed his prediction. King's voice was a little lost too. Even Katakuri can't resist the air cannon attacked by Joker. Incredible. He still had a little confidence, and with his racial advantage, he probably could resist it. But it was useless against this overwhelming power. It's a little scary. Around him, everyone exclaimed in surprise. Someone from the Charlotte family hurried to feed Katakuri a senzu bean. Under the effects of the bean, Katakuri opened his eyes again and regained his consciousness. Just like Doflamingo, he resurrected and now he was scared when he saw the air cannon. He no longer had any doubts about this air cannon in his heart. It could really interfere with observation hockey, making it impossible to predict the air cannon's attack. It's useless for you to think about it. This is simply a bug-level artifact. Jiren yawned as he waved his other hand. Very proud of his first weapon created by him. Chapter 87, Kaido is the target to test if the air cannon can interfere with observation hockey. Kitakuri took the initiative to apply it to resist the attack. The final result is that Kitakuri was killed by Doflamingo. And his observation hockey didn't respond at all. This surprised everyone, and everyone looked at Jigen. Jigen touched his nose, with a blank expression on his face, but he was frantically calling the system, asking if the air cannon could interfere with sight. The system responded. Indeed, it's possible, but in front of major powers, it's only limited interference. Meaning, in front of people like Roger, Whitebeard, Sengoku, and other characters who are at the top and have obviously developed their observation hockey to the limit, the air cannon can interfere, but the interference is limited. Still, Jigen couldn't help but be surprised. This really sucks. Kaido laughed out loud. Jigen, good job. Kaido congratulated him. Not caring about this small flaw. Nowadays only remnants from the previous era have a high level of observation hockey. So he wasn't worried about this point. Every piece of your technology can make people's eyes shine. This thing can make the enemy suffer completely in a high-level battle. Many congratulated him while others burned with envy. Think about how unpredictable the air cannon attack is. Many powerful characters must be careful of sudden attacks all the time. Big Mom shouted excitedly and seemed a bit crazy. She immediately approached Doflamingo and asked him to come with the air cannon. Doflamingo was a little reluctant to give up, but he lowered the air cannon and handed it over to the giant woman. After Big Mom got the air cannon, she laughed even more lasciviously. Mom. She quickly asked Jigen for advice on how to adjust the size of the air cannon, and then put the air cannon on her middle finger. That's right. Put it on the middle finger. Jigen rolled his eyes at this. So many fingers can be used, but you want to use it on the middle finger. Big Mom looked at Kaido while laughing. Kaido, come and help me experiment. Kaido. Seeing that Kaido didn't respond immediately, she couldn't help but mockingly say. Kaido, what? Are you scared? Kaido. Kaido reacted to the taunt. I have never been scared in my life. Come on, who's afraid of who? Kaido looked disapprovingly. First, he had been just in case. Secondly, he felt that Big Mom's level was not enough to defeat his physical body. Whether it was hockey ability or devil fruit, he was above Big Mom, so he said that his inner caution dissipated. Puntla. Kaido and Big Mom stood relatively far apart, and the giant woman began injecting physical strength. During this period, she was also surprised by the upper limit of the air cannon. The physical strength injected by this thing has already surpassed half of its total strength. The consumption of using the strongest blow is even more terrifying. Soon, the injection limit had ended. Big Mom wasn't sweating like Doflamingo, but she exhaled slowly. She immediately looked at Kaido and smiled. Kaido, are you ready? Kaido sneered. Let's go, Lin. Soon, Big Mom stopped fooling around and, with a thought, fired the air cannon. When the sound of breaking air resonated, Kaido's heart also tightened. He had a brief premonition of the attack's capability, but if he hadn't been looking ahead, he wouldn't have any idea when the air cannon would be fired. Kaido shouted violently, armed with armament hockey, and combined with his physique, he basically believed that this couldn't harm him. However, in the next second, as the air cannon approached, he felt a fear of death. That's right. The fear of death. For a moment, his heart violently jumped and he fell into a trance. Could this really make him feel fear? Him, the strongest creature? Kaido wanted to dodge, but it was too late to dodge now. Without thinking further, Kaido roared, "Ora!" His body changed in an instant, scales covered his body, his hair grew longer and covered his back, and his tail appeared at the same time. Kaido transformed into his hybrid form. The attack also arrived after his transformation and bombarded his crossed arms. Immediately, Kaido felt a terrifying torrent of power, so sharp that it was about to break through his defenses. "Ora!" Kaido shouted loudly, his muscles completely tense and his veins fully swollen, trying to block this force as much as possible. Around him, everyone's expressions were horrified, because Kaido's resistance caused the two forces to form a hurricane around everyone. Some of the weaker ones were directly swept away by the hurricane and fell abruptly to the ground. In the midst of the wave, Kaido clenched his teeth so hard that his gums trembled and blood came out from his teeth. He did his best to push the air cannon back, or break its attack, but he couldn't do it. In the end, Kaido's power was completely crushed, and the power directly enveloped Kaido and bombarded him. Chapter 88, Transaction 1. Kaido stumbled back again and again, his thick thighs carving a trench hundreds of meters long in the ground, and finally his strength dissipated. Immediately after stabilizing himself, Kaido groaned, and a large mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth, and he finally squatted halfway on the ground. Kaido was hit hard. Everyone around him was shocked to the extreme. Before, Doflamingo and Itakuri were strong, but compared to Kaido, they were actually not qualified. Now Kaido was hit hard by the air cannon. Everyone clearly realized how incredible this air cannon is. Big Mom even laughed out loud and shouted, "It's too good. Too good. This air cannon has increased my attack power at least 5 times." Everyone was in an uproar. "Oh my god. I'm really getting scared." Everyone was surprised, and then everyone looked at Jigen in horror. The technology developed by Mr. Jigen is really amazing. It can increase the attack power of a 4 emperors at least 5 times, and it can also interfere with Haki. I dare say that this is comparable to an ancient weapon. Amazing. This air cannon is amazing. The cheers lasted for a few minutes, not only from the Beast Pirates, but also from the Big Mom Pirates and the Don Quixote family. Big Mom couldn't put it down and looked at the air cannon in her hand. After a while, she said solemnly, "However, this air cannon has some deficiencies. The consumption is a bit high, and I can only use up to 3 full power attacks." Jigen rolled his eyes. She deserved to be a brute woman who only relies on strength. Why are the Senzubins there? Just for show, they are meant to be used. Jigen wanted to hit Big Mom, but he didn't dare. Jigen was about to speak, but Kaido, who had recovered after taking a bean, took a step forward and said in a deep voice, "Physical strength is not a problem at all." After hearing Kaido's complaint, Big Mom widened her eyes in realization. She was immediately ecstatic. That's right. The Senzubin can restore physical strength. This is a completely infinite battery life. Everyone. The others were stunned. For a long time, they all thought about the future battlefield. While bombarding with air cannons, you don't have to fear the enemy. Although this is a somewhat inexplicable feeling of disobedience, such a battle is not to mention how cool it is. Kaido approached his old friend and asked for the air cannon in her hand, but unexpectedly Big Mom refused, completely fascinated with the air cannon on her middle finger and refused to give it back. He laughed while saying, "Kaido, this air cannon counts as my purchase. No problem with that, but now I have to return it for further development on a large scale. We'll talk about that later." Big Mom was still unhappy. "Kaido, don't forget the favor from back then." "Shut up." Kaido immediately interrupted. "Don't be so rude all the time. We settled that debt a long time ago. How long do you want me to be indebted for that?" Kaido roared. "If you don't return it now, then you'll never be able to buy this line of cannons and you'll be stuck with that one." Seeing Kaido's determined tone, Big Mom had no choice but to give up. Compared to the present, it is even more important to secure a channel for purchasing air cannons in the future. Jigen really wanted to get popcorn and sit with Ulti while watching the show these two old folks put on every time they argued. It was really entertaining. In Jigen's opinion, the favor his captain owes Big Mom is just as she describes it in the anime. A lifelong debt. You just have to look at the type of fruit Big Mom gave Kaido to know that this doesn't happen every day. After Charlotte returned the air cannon to Kaido, she didn't give Kaido a good face and turned around to look for Jigen with a smile on her face. Not just her. Doflamingo also wanted the opportunity to redeem this product. They really didn't expect it to be such a success. And the transaction was finalized soon after. The cost of the air cannon was 100 million Bailey. And the deal was for Big Mom and Doflamingo. It was 200 million Bailey per unit. They didn't mind this at all. They truly felt it was worth it, and even felt like they were swindling the Beast Pirates. Big Mom laughed and said, "I'll give you 4 billion later and buy units." Jigen was stunned for a moment, but didn't say anything and nodded. As for Doflamingo, he still has to manage his own business and recently bought Senzu beans. Cash flow isn't too much, so he finally decided and ordered 5 units, with a total price of 1 billion. The payment was made with the help of some universal capsules. Jigen handed part of the money to Kaido, but Kaido directly refused. "Jigen, there's no need for you to give it to me. All this money will be put on your side as a fund, and it will all be converted into air cannons and Senzu beans. Let's turn the world upside down." Worororo. Chapter 89, Transaction 2. After obtaining all the money from the profits, Kaido gave all the money to Jigen and asked him to invest it all in air cannons and Senzu beans. After acquiring a large quantity of these, Kaido plans to seek revenge for the shame Marine caused them by announcing Jack's execution. Jigen nodded and took all the money. Only to hear him mock, "Now that we have this weapon, we can't be too discreet, let other forces feel the fear first." Kaido intends to counterattack again. The Red Hair Pirates, Whitebeard, the 7 warlords of the seas, unexpectedly joining forces and making his forces bleed. Kaido has been seeking them out recently. Now, with the birth of new technology, it is time to make them pay the price. In the past, the beast pirates still had the advantage of Senzubans and universal capsules, and they could still have the advantage, but as the two sides fought more and more, the other side also captured many Senzubans and some universal capsules. This also resulted in basically no difference between the two sides. The time room only developed for a few days and was used for military training. For powers like Kaido, the effect of entering for a few days was not too obvious and would take at least a few months to significantly improve. As for the air cannon, it is not the same. It is a weapon that can directly enhance and instantly increase combat power several times. So Kaido plans to go back and teach the red hair pirates a good lesson. This is actually for his showmanship. Worororo. Kaido chuckled. Jigen simply shook his head. Judging by Kaido's previous behavior, Kaido is actually an extremely arrogant Supreme Lord who likes to boast too much. Unexpectedly, Big Mom beside him also sneered and repeated. That's right. These bastards are like flies. They come to our territory every 3 days and buzz around. It's very annoying. In the past, Big Mom was also beaten by Whitebeard. Since both sides had Senzubins, Big Mom still couldn't match up to Whitebeard at all, which makes her heart suffocate all the time, but now with the air cannon, she has more than an 80% chance of defeating the old man. Her combat power would skyrocket 5 times above her peak, and she only has to fire the cannon a few times. This makes her very excited and eager to beat Whitebeard. She said. Kaido, go ahead, when you're done, lend me this air cannon first, I'll deal with that bastard Nugate. Kaido was about to respond, but he heard Jigen say from the side. Actually, I have 2 more here, I can give one to each of them first, so they can have fun while the others are being produced. 3 are made for each session. Jigen's words instantly made Big Mom's eyes light up, and Doflamingo, who was not involved in the conversation between the 2 four emperors, couldn't help but get excited as well. Gee. That's not right. Jigen-san, are you telling the truth? Doflamingo changed his title, fully acknowledging the scientific power of that young man. Perhaps one day he will create an existence that is comparable to the ancient weapon, no. Even surpassing it, he will make the whole world tremble. So Doflamingo realized that embracing Jigen's thigh is the most convenient way to have opportunities to buy future inventions. Big Mom stepped forward, and her swollen body was about to give Jigen a bear hug, but he avoided it with flexibility. Jigen coughed and said, Andy, don't get too excited, you might end up killing me. After speaking, he took out the other 2 air cannons from the universal capsule, handing one to the giant woman and the other to Doflamingo. The one used as a sample, naturally Kaido kept it. Big Mom didn't mind Jigen avoiding her hug. After seeing the air cannon in his possession, she couldn't help but laugh excitedly. Ha ha ha, Mom, Mom, Mom. Due to excitement, her body trembled, causing Onagashima's ground to shake. Doflamingo was also very excited. Although he wasn't as excited as Big Mom, the smile on his face never faded. As for Jigen, after a few days of evolutionary cards, Jigen is no longer the ordinary person who first crossed this world and could be crushed by a wine bottle. Right now his combat level was on par with Ulti in her hybrid form, although he couldn't defeat her due to her battle experience. But his power would rival hers. Thanks to Ulti, who drags him to the training arenas of Onigashima every day, Jigen can tap into the potential provided by the evolutionary cards. After receiving the air cannon, Doflamingo didn't install it on his fingers, but adjusted the cannon to make it larger and installed it on his arm. After all, he could still rely on his devil fruit ability to attack simultaneously with the cannon. While Doflamingo adjusted the cannon, in the banquet hall, Kaido and all his subordinates were still excited about the new invention. Kaido raised the air cannon in his hand and said loudly, Everyone, it's time for us to fight. Hey. Chapter 90, Kaido tests the air cannon again. New World. The red hair pirates arrived at the uninhabited island where they used to rest. At this moment, the atmosphere of the group was in a carnival state. This time, they have harvested a large amount of super technologies. Holding a bowl of wine, Shanks took a sip and said to Ben Beckman, Did you finish counting this time? In front of him, Ben Beckman poured himself a glass of wine, but with a more serious expression on his face. The inventory is done, the harvest this time is not bad. Seeing Ben Beckman's expression, Shanks smiled and said, Don't worry, Beckman. Ben Beckman has been worried about the news from Yasopp before leaving Kaido's territory. That guy's research and development is very powerful, but now we have a lot of his super technology, magic beans, and universal capsules. We just need to get the door. Even if there is a new technology this time, we will take it in due time. Right now, they have not obtained information about the Time House, so according to their understanding, There are only 3 super technologies created by Jigen. If this time includes the new technology, it would be 4. Ben Beckman pondered and drank all the wine in the glass. After being baptized by alcohol, he slowly opened his mouth and said, I don't know why, but this time I feel a bit uneasy in my heart. I always feel that this time, his new invention will surpass the previous ones. Indeed, this is well-founded. Recently, too many forces have targeted the Beast's pirates. Even the 7 warlords of the sea's forces, who rarely set foot in the New World, are rushing to go to Beast's pirates and get a piece of the pie. In such an environment, it is easy to deduce that the new invention by the natural disaster this time will directly be a weapon. Otherwise, Kaido would not be as excited as when he decided to retreat. Shanks, on the other hand, is optimistic, and his character complements Ben Beckman's, which is one of the reasons why Ben Beckman worries. While drinking, he patted Ben Beckman on the shoulder and said, It's all right. Don't overthink it, as long as the path is in front of you. And just as his voice fell, a huge dragon roar resounded in the distance. Ben Beckman's spirit was already tense, and he was the first to react. Kaido? Shanks also left the wine in the glass, and his eyes suddenly looked into the distance and saw the figure soaring in the sky, circling and treading on nothingness. It really is Kaido. Shanks said aloud. Everyone, prepare for battle. The members of the Red Hair Pirates suddenly stopped their revelry and entered a state of fighting. As an observer, Usopp also took the initiative to observe the enemy's situation with a telescope. He found that Kaido was a dragon, and no other member followed him, which left him stunned for a while, not understanding what Kaido wanted to do. After some observations, Usopp noticed that Kaido had a ring on one of his front legs. Amidst the revelry, Kaido's roar sounded, causing everyone in the Red Hair Pirates to be ready to fight. As an observer, Usopp also took the initiative to observe the enemy's situation with a telescope. After observation, it was discovered that Kaido was the only one who came this time, and there was a ring-like element on Kaido's front legs. Usopp immediately reported the information he obtained to his Nakamas. Shanks was a little surprised. Has Kaido started to get into fashion now? Ben Beckman seemed helpless and solemnly said. There is a high probability that this is a new invention of that man this time. Although it is still unknown what it is, we must be vigilant no matter what. Shanks nodded and reminded everyone to be careful of the ring on Kaido's finger. Soon, Kaido stepped on the cloud of flames and reached the top of the island, suspended in the air. Kaido's appearance also brought dark clouds, thunder, and lightning, and the whole world suddenly roared. He looked down at the Red Hair Pirates, and finally met their red eyes, and sneered. Insolent brat, we meet again. Did you miss me? Kaido said in a mocking tone, and his voice resonated in the air like muffled thunder. Shanks was not afraid at all, and counterattacked without hesitation. Of course I missed you, Kaido. Do you know how much I love you when I'm counting on the super technology supplied by you? Kaido's eyes turned dark and unpleasant. Akagami. His voice covered the sound of thunder and said. Today, I am here to eliminate your group of flies. I, Kaido, will finish you off alone. At this moment, Kaido was arrogant and authoritarian to the extreme. With the air cannon in hand, he had no fear at all and came to challenge the entire Red Hair Pirates group alone. Then, Ben Beckman said. He's quite confident. He must have enough confidence in this new invention, or he's just boasting as always. Kaido's trump card was revealed this time, but he showed no fear at all, but admitted it generously. Wuro. That's right. This is the recent masterpiece of our natural disaster, called air cannon. However, many members of Shanks' crew scorned Kaido's words. Just this thing in your hand? Haha, what kind of power can such a small thing have? That's right. Chapter 91, Kaido vs. Red Hair Pirates. These pirates who join the Red Hair Pirates are very proud of themselves. So, after seeing the ring on Kaido's finger, they only said what was in their hearts. About the vacuum, this time Kaido didn't show too much, because this air cannon is a weapon. Since it is a weapon, it is enough to speak with power. Upon hearing the Red Hair Pirates' distrust of the air cannon below, Kaido sneered. His tone was extremely confident, speaking in a low voice and saying with an unmatched attitude. I will let you experience the power of this true masterpiece. When searching for the Red Hair Pirates, Kaido had already maximized his air cannon, so Kaido doesn't need to put in more power. He stopped saying nonsense, lifted his front legs, and aimed at the Red Hair Pirates below. The mouth of the air cannon began to frantically accumulate the surrounding air, and with Kaido's roar, the air cannon fired. The air cannon fired, propelled by the physical strength of the strongest creature. Compressed air is used as a cannonball, and finally, Haki increases its attack power and destructive power. Immediately, thunder in the sky was attracted, and the sound of breaking through the air shocked the minds of the Red Hair Pirates below, causing them to show fear, and some directly fainted under the influence of the black thunder. When the cannon came out, the entire vacuum seemed to tear apart, trembling violently. Below, Shanks, Ben Beckman, Yusuf, Lucky Roo. All of their expressions were stern. This attack is too strong. Yusuf was surprised and his voice trembled. As an observer and sniper, Yusuf's observation hockey is very powerful, but now he is horrified to find that he can't predict what will happen next, although he is not as accurate as Katakuri in predicting the future, but he still has a lot of confidence, but this time it proved impossible. What is happening? As the attack came so fast, Yusuf didn't have time to think about it. Not far away, Shanks had already unsheathed his sword. He couldn't help but turn his head to Ben Beckman and said, "Let's go together." Ben Beckman nodded, with cold sweat coming out of his forehead at this moment. Without hesitation, he was also ready to fight. The short sword behind his waist was unsheathed and Ben Beckman followed Shanks to face the air cannon. Shanks burst into a sword light, drawing a bright light in this dark world, and with the light, a terrifying black thunder roared, and Conqueror's hockey enveloped it. Ben Beckman followed closely behind, and the short sword in his hand was covered with black armament hockey, which also drew a dark sword light in the vacuum. Behind them, the red hair pirates exclaimed. "The captain and vice captain have fired. Now that it's stable, we can feel at ease." Yes. Everyone felt that this was stable and that nothing would happen. That Shanks and Ben Beckman would definitely block the blow. Above the void, Kaido mocked. This is an attack that can severely damage him with a single strike. How can it be so simple to stop it? Soon, in the air, Shanks took the lead to collide with the air cannon. Two terrifying forces collided and a loud explosion sounded. There were lightning and thunder in the sky. The two attacks clashed in the air. At the moment of rough contact, Shanks was instantly horrified. The power of this air cannon was too fierce. In the moment of the fight, he was at a disadvantage and was directly crushed by the air cannon. Just as Shanks was about to be engulfed by the air cannon, Ben Beckman finally arrived, cutting through the air cannon with his short sword. "Here I am, Captain." Ben Beckman was secretly surprised that his captain was unable to stop the attack. At the moment he made contact with the air cannon, he immediately understood why this scene happened. The power of the air cannon was extremely terrifying. Now facing it is like resisting an unreachable mountain. The two gritted their teeth, and the lights of the swords in their hands kept bursting, trying to cut through the terrifying collision. In the end, they did it, and the attack was crushed by the two, but the explosion of power made them unable to withstand it any longer, and a terrible torrent of power sent them flying. Shanks and Ben Beckman flew upside down and quickly fell from the air. They wanted to adjust their figures so as not to be so embarrassed, but the inertia was too strong and they couldn't stabilize their bodies at all. At the same time, two loud explosions sounded, and the two created two huge craters in the ground. The island was also affected by the aftermath of the explosion and began to shake violently. After all the movement dissipated, the faces of all the crew members were filled with horror, and a cold sweat broke out on their foreheads, and some even fell to the ground with weak feet. Chapter 92, Causing Terror, 1, Beckman. Yusuf was horrified, the gun in his hand trembling slightly. "Captain," both of Beckman's hands were still in the air. "The power of this new technology, air cannon, is incredible." Around them, when everyone came back to their senses, they suddenly exclaimed. "The joint efforts of the captain and the vice captain have failed. This is too outrageous, isn't it? You know, the difference in strength between the vice captain and the captain is not big, and the difference between the captain and Kaido is basically not. And now the two can barely block the attack. How the hell was this invented?" Looking at the surprise of the people below, Kaido laughed with satisfaction. "Uff, whirro. The sound of his mocking laughter resonated through the sky. "Akagami, how does your vice captain feel? Like a fly swatter?" After speaking, Kaido laughed heartily again and now felt relaxed and happy. "I used to think that swinging was what I liked the most, but now I think bombing is what I like the most." Saying this, Kaido injected his strength again, the front claws raised again to aim at the red hair pirates below. Everyone in the red hair pirates was shocked and retreated. Does this bastard not need to reload ammunition? When everyone thought of this, they saw that Kaido had eaten a senzu bean. Just as Kaido used the air cannon to reduce the dimensionality of the red hair pirates. Big Mom found the current location of the Whitebeard pirates through Zeus' constant search. After seeing the Moby Dick, she showed a horrible face. Her hair started flying like a witch from hell and carried a furious flame. On the Moby Dick, Whitebeard and his group also found Big Mom chasing after them, and they were all ready to fight. But soon Marco discovered something strange. He looked at the sea level behind her and said in surprise, "Did that troublesome woman come after us alone?" "Eh?" Many were surprised. "It's very possible, after all, she's crazy," Jaws said. "No matter how many bins she has, facing a group of pirates like them alone is suicide." As long as Whitebeard cooperates with his captains and prevents Big Mom from taking Senzu bins, the battle won't drag on for too long. Just as everyone was guessing, Whitebeard, who came to the bow, noticed the difference in his old friend. As a strong man, his sight was very strong and he was very careful with details, so he quickly noticed an extra ring on her middle finger. This is really something to worry about. Big Mom finally approached the ship with a smile and laughed heartily. Newgate, we meet again. Did you miss me? Marco, on the side, asked. Madam, what trick are you playing this time? Where are your subordinates hiding? Let them out quickly, or did you really come alone? Despite being enemies, Marco was always extremely polite to women. Behind him, several captains continued to roar. That's right. Keep fighting with dignity. This time our Whitebeard pirates will definitely keep you, Big Mom. When Big Mom heard these words, she immediately sneered. Ambush, plot? Ha ha ha, ma. Do I need this? To deal with you, right now I am enough. It must be said that she has a lot of confidence and at the same time feels disdain for the Whitebeard pirates. After everyone in the Whitebeard pirates heard the words, they laughed and Whitebeard, who was standing at the front, raised his hand while squinting at Big Mom. Seeing her father raise his hand, everyone suppressed the anger in their hearts, glared at Big Mom, and closed their mouths. Whitebeard stared at Big Mom, who was smiling to herself, for a while and said, Linlin, all this nonsense will be avoided. You know it in your own heart. If you face the Whitebeard pirates alone, I won't let you escape. Big Mom laughed at this. On the opposite side, Whitebeard continued to ask aloud. The ring on your finger is the latest research and development from that kid from the Beast Pirates. It's what gives you enough confidence to come to me alone? Yes, Newgate. In reality, Whitebeard thought about it and indeed guessed it right. This thing is a new technology from the scientific disaster. Linlin, aren't you ashamed to take technology obtained from mothers and then show off your power in front of me? Newgate, it's useless to anger me. We are in a strategic alliance with the Beast Pirates, so this kind of thing is normal. Big Mom remained completely unaffected by the provocation. If Whitebeard had a scientist as powerful as that kid, she would definitely have fallen for his trick. Newgate, I'm not talking nonsense with you. This time I'm here to pay back the humiliation from before and let you experience the power of the air cannon invented by that brat you called. Big Mom started talking non-stop, a little bit of chatter. She smiled and said, Whitebeard pirates, you have to pay attention. This thing almost killed Kaido with a single blow. On the opposite side, everyone was shocked when they heard this. Can this thing also be considered a cannon? Although Big Mom is huge, the air cannon is placed on her finger and doesn't look too big. However, such a thing almost killed Kaido of the Beast Pirates. This creature's defense is unparalleled. Many thought this claim was ridiculous. Big Mom stopped talking nonsense. Since you don't believe it, then experience it for yourself. After saying that, Big Mom raised her hand, all her fingers were bent, and her middle finger was exposed. The air cannon blatantly aimed at the Whitebeard pirates. Unconsciously, many swallowed nervously when they saw this. After all, they were facing something unknown. Chapter 93, Causing Terror, 2. The air around Big Mom seemed to completely evacuate, and the air cannon burst with a buzzing sound. In the moment the cannon shot out and the power tilted, Whitebeard's expression on the prow suddenly changed greatly. In this moment, he understood why a blow could almost kill Kaido. With this power coming out, even he wouldn't fight if given the option to decide. But he can't retreat, because behind him are his children. Once he retreats, those with captain-level strength will inevitably die. Let's go. Everyone, retreat. Whitebeard shouted, his tone extremely serious and authoritative. The large naginata in his hand was tightly gripped, and he held it above his head with both hands. Whitebeard only holds his knife with both hands when facing a strong enemy, and now he holds a knife with both hands, which is enough to show everything. Suddenly, a figure emerged behind Whitebeard and said sharply, Dad, leave it to me. Whitebeard glanced sideways and saw Jaws standing in front of him. At the same time, crystalline diamonds began to appear on Jaws's body, covering his head, limbs, until covering his whole body. Jaws, the strongest shield of the Whitebeard pirates, intended to block the new technology of the disaster scientist. Whitebeard wanted to stop him, but it was too late and the air cannon bombarded Jaws. A muffled sound suddenly rang out, and Jaws only felt like a great mountain had struck him in the face, blood appearing at the corner of his mouth. He was extremely shocked. The power was too strong, twice as strong as his father's attack. His body began to tremble violently, making a cracking sound. Kakaka cracks appeared on the diamonds on his body. He continued to roar, trying to block the air cannon, but in the end he was swallowed by it, and the full force of power was discharged onto him, causing his diamond body to start breaking inch by inch and cracks to appear. Then his whole figure flew upside down like a comet with a broken rope, blood spurting frantically from his mouth, and it could vaguely be seen that the blood was still mixed with pieces of internal organs. Whitebeard paled in shock, quickly approaching and catching Jaws, who was flying upside down, in his arms. Jaws crashed heavily into Whitebeard's body, and even the mighty Whitebeard was horrified by this power. This force pushed him back and forth, creating a crack in the ship's prow, and seeing that he was about to fall onto the plywood below, Whitebeard roared. The long knife in his hand directly inserted into the ground and, after sliding for a distance, Whitebeard stabilized his body. Everyone around him was surprised when they saw this scene. They didn't expect this little ring to have such terrifying power. Whitebeard set Jaws down and Marco, the ship's doctor, immediately stepped forward to check the situation. He saw that the diamonds on Jaws's body were all cracked, and many fragments were scattered, and these fragments and the diamonds in his body were slowly disappearing, turning into Jaws's broken body. This meant that he lost his life on the spot. Whitebeard's eyes violently narrowed upon seeing this. Marco and the other captains were also extremely horrified. Without daring to neglect, Marco immediately gave Jaws a senzu bean. Covered in green light, Jaws came back to life. As soon as Jaws was resurrected, he gasped for breath, his face pale and filled with terror, and his heart filled with fear. Too terrifying. The power of the thing is terrifying. Everyone couldn't help but swallow their saliva as they looked at their friend's face. Inconsistently, they looked at the giant woman not far from them, who kept laughing loudly. They looked at the air cannon on her middle finger. This thing is even more outrageous than the devil fruit. Looking at the expressions of everyone in Whitebeard's pirates, Big Mom continued to laugh wildly. The entire sea area is filled with her unrestrained laughter. Mama! That brat's inventions are really amazing. If he proposed it, he could even dominate the world, because he follows someone like Kaido. Big Mom thought that following Kaido was a waste for Jigen. After laughing, she again began to gather her strength and hockey into the air cannon, and then ran out of breath. This scene made Whitebeard raise his eyebrows slightly, thinking something in his heart. The rest of Whitebeard's pirates also seemed to have guessed something. However, Big Mom on the other side smiled and put a bin in her mouth, and the fatigue she had just shown disappeared. She looked at Whitebeard and the others with a stern smile, and the air cannon she held in her hand pointed back at Moby Dick. No. Immediately, Whitebeard's eyes shrank sharply. Can it still be like this? He wondered. Marco was also surprised. The bins can provide recovery, doesn't that mean this thing has no consumption? Everyone was silent at his statement. Big Mom experienced what is called the feeling of surprising a person several times, and her body trembled with excitement. Now she didn't even bother to use Napoleon. It's still great to bomb. Onigashima. After Kaido and Big Mom obtained Jigen's new technology, they brought a terrifying sense of oppression to their two Four Emperors rivals. And now there is one last person who also wants to taste his revenge. Doflamingo. He was too lazy to use his ability to go to the battlefield, and directly asked Jigen to help him send him to the 7 Warlords of the Sea's battlefield. Jigen naturally had no objections. After all, Doflamingo was an important business partner. He opened the arbitrary door without much suspense, allowing him to return to the battlefield and cause more terror. Spreading his new technology like this. Chapter 94, Collision between 7 Warlords of the Seas. 1. After passing through the door, Doflamingo returned to the front lines. Hawkeye and the other 7 Warlords of the Seas hadn't left yet, they were still distributing the loot. This time, Hawkeye only obtained a universal capsule. At that moment, he was testing the strange object. While he sheathed and unsheathed Yoru, his sword. Observing the unmatched simplicity of entering and exiting, Hawkeye's expression was severe, but his heart was quite excited. At this moment, everyone noticed Doflamingo's sudden appearance. No one was surprised, after all, they had all witnessed the magic of the arbitrary door, coming and going freely. Moria, Hancock, and Kuma ignored Doflamingo and continued distributing the spoils of battle. This time there were many senzu bins, which made Hancock happy. Only Hawkeye held onto Yoru and faced Doflamingo. The first thing Hawkeye saw was something resembling a cannon on Doflamingo's arm, which was adjusted by Doflamingo himself. Hawkeye didn't have the same nonsense as Kaido and Big Mom, quickly saying with a serious face and solemn expression. Let me see the new invention of that scientific disaster. Having said that, the black sword in his hand pointed at Doflamingo in front of him. Doflamingo chuckled. I'm afraid today is the day the world's greatest swordsman dies. Seeing that Hawkeye didn't respond, Doflamingo also lost interest in talking and mocking. In front of such a taciturn opponent, his tongue couldn't derive any pleasure at all. As you wish. Then Doflamingo stopped babbling and directly raised the air cannon in his hand to aim at Hawkeye. Since he used a door to come here, He didn't inject any physical strength or hockey beforehand, and immediately started injecting it into the cannon in his arm. On the opposite side, Mihawk waited for Doflamingo to attack, the black sword in his hand raised above his head and then fell. Suddenly, it slashed towards Doflamingo, leaving the ground shattered by the terrifying cut. Doflamingo showed no trace of fear in his eyes. His forehead was covered in sweat and the injection limit of the air cannon had already been reached, causing the corners of his mouth to involuntarily draw a line. "Alright, I really want to see if you can stop this with your sword," Doflamingo said to himself. As his thoughts arose, the air cannon that had been injected with physical strength and hockey finally fired. The surrounding air immediately compressed. With the launch of the air cannon, Doflamingo had just consumed a lot of physical power and hockey, causing him to involuntarily take a few steps back. This made him feel quite excited. This is really too powerful. The entire ground was suddenly destroyed by the power of this attack, like a beast that had been repressed for a long time, finally becoming enraged and destroying everything in its path. After coming into contact with Mihawk's attack, this seemingly unmatched sword light dissipated instantly and was shattered by the air cannon. Hawkeye saw this scene, and his piercing eyes moved slightly. He couldn't believe it. But it was already too late to think about it. After destroying the sword light, the air cannon still rushed towards him relentlessly. Hawkeye also felt a sense of crisis, something he had never felt before, especially from someone like Doflamingo. He dared not hesitate any longer and immediately lifted Yor to resist. An immense force directly struck Hawkeye's black sword, causing it to tremble. Hawkeye's originally stern expression was no longer calm, and this power prevented him from maintaining his composure. Hawkeye's black sword had the intention of rising, but it was still suppressed. Under the circumstances of Hawkeye's full force, the air cannon still repelled him dozens of meters away, leaving deep trenches in the ground. When the power of the air cannon disappeared, a huge ravine appeared in front of Hawkeye, and the ground opened up. He continuously gasped, his forehead covered in sweat, and his sharp eyes trembled slightly in that moment. After becoming the world's greatest swordsman for so many years, he hadn't felt this embarrassed in a long time. He couldn't help but look at Doflamingo, at the small and insignificant cannon on his arm. Everything seemed too unreal. This was a new invention of that sort. It's too outrageous. Invention after invention. Mihawk wondered if that guy had any limits to his research. Who was he? The world's greatest swordsman who can rival Shanks in swordsmanship, and the two have no way to decide a winner. This scientific disaster is truly a man beyond imagination. Behind him, Hancock and Moria were already speechless. Meanwhile, Kuma remained silent, quite typical of him. To surprise him, it takes more than that. "What the hell is that thing?" Moria exclaimed. At that moment, he felt a chill run through his body and felt cold from his body to his soul. Now that Crocodile and Jinbai are absent, Hawkeye is the strongest combat force among the three. If he's in that condition, Moria really doesn't want to experience that power himself. On the other hand, Hancock's face was also serious. Is this the new invention? It's a bit beyond the limit. Clearly, it breaks the rules of the world. Doflamingo looked proudly at Hawkeye, who was so embarrassed in front of him. Who has ever seen the world's greatest swordsman in such a posture? Without hesitation, he decisively took a Sensubin to fully recover his physical strength. And with that, naturally, all his hockey returned. After taking the bean, he secretly injected his physical strength and hockey into the air cannon again. When injected, others cannot perceive it. It can only be judged based on the physical exhaustion of the person using it. Meaning, if he is panting and powerless, clearly he won't be able to launch another attack. But if he is perfectly normal. Run bitch. Run Chapter 95, Collision between 7 Warlords of the Seas, 2. However, Hawkeye regained his stern expression and said with a deep voice. This man is truly fierce. It might seem like a simple phrase, lacking expressive power, but coming from the taciturn swordsman Hawkeye, it is completely different. Hawkeye genuinely feels from the bottom of his heart that the technology invented by that disaster is truly audacious and powerful. Whether it's this new technology or these beans. Saying this, Hawkeye also took out a bin and consumed it, just like Doflamingo, quickly recovering. This invention has ignited my sword's intent. Hawkeye didn't mention Doflamingo at all. In his opinion, he was able to reach this level thanks to secondary objects. It wasn't his true strength at all. Therefore, he held even more disdain than before towards this eccentric individual. He tightly gripped Yoru, dangerously staring at Doflamingo. Seeing this situation, the latter decisively decided to avoid further confrontation, while smiling. Hawkeye, I won't play with you anymore. Seeing you like this before, I am already satisfied. Doflamingo truly knew that even if he had the air cannon, now, he wouldn't be an opponent for Hawkeye in a heated battle. This can be seen from the fact that Hawkeye blocked his bombardment a moment ago. After all, Hawkeye is the greatest swordsman in the world. Although Doflamingo's attack has reached a level close to that of an admiral, there is simply no way to compare it to someone as real and monstrous as this swordsman. He was able to shame Hawkeye to such an extent, which is also why he didn't take air cannon seriously initially. Now that he has experienced it once, Hawkeye intends to take it seriously. In the end, Doflamingo would be defeated. Not to mention Kuma, Moria, and the famous pirate Empress who were ready to intervene as soon as Hawkeye's strength wavered. Doflamingo decisively changed targets, using his devil fruit ability to elevate himself in the air, evading Mihawk's attack and then aiming the cannon's barrel at Hancock from above. Hancock's heart tightened, immediately becoming alert. However, due to the interference of her emotions, she couldn't predict when Doflamingo would strike. Eventually, under the scorching attack, she couldn't dodge it and was hit by the air cannon. Boom! Suddenly, her white and sexy body was engulfed by the air cannon and fell heavily to the ground. Only her last breath remained. Fortunately, she was still a strong 7 warlords of the seas with a well-trained physique. On the brink of death and charred, she struggled to take a bin and, after a burst of green light, her body fully recovered. She didn't say a word and decisively retreated. It would be foolish on her part to succumb to her own pride and fight against something like this. Doflamingo didn't pursue her because Hawkeye was still pressuring him step by step, and now he just wanted to have a good time after obtaining such a powerful weapon. Even if he couldn't kill anyone, he didn't mind at all. Without hesitation, after using his ability to distance himself from Hawkeye once again, Doflamingo aimed the air cannon at Moria this time. Moria was surprised, having no idea how to resist at all. Come on. Give it your all. He was crazily ordering the army of zombies to charge and block as much damage as possible. Unfortunately, this army of zombies had no resistance against the air cannon, and they were all annihilated without much suspense. And Gecko Moria fled like a madman. As the Empress, Moria, and other minor characters fled, they secretly panicked over this new technology that had been unleashed. This time, the technology is directly a weapon. If this weapon falls into the hands of more people, what should they do? Amazon Lily. 3 people stepped out of a doorway while gazing at the surrounding scenery. It really worked. Jigen, one of the 3 people, was pleasantly surprised. This is. Ulti beside him, was curious about where this place was. It's Amazon Lily, the place of Pirate Empress Boa Hancock. Jigen said with joy. He really didn't expect that he could access any place using his memories of One Piece. If that's the case, it means I can come and go from Marriage Oise. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. He even had the crazy idea of bombarding part of Marriage Oise with the air cannon. Unfortunately, he couldn't enjoy his thoughts any longer as Ulti grabbed him by the neck. Hey, you bastard, what do you want to do in this island full of women? Am I not enough woman for you? Ulti dangerously questioned. Well, sweetheart, I just came to recruit the Pirate Empress. She and her army of women would be a great asset subordinate to the beast pirates. Jigen raised both hands in a sign of peace and surrender. He simply didn't feel like fighting against his girlfriend, as is often the case when she found him with Yamato and got jealous. Ulti stared at him for a few seconds before letting him go and huffing. Page 1, standing to the side, rolled his eyes. He truly felt like a third wheel. On one hand, he was glad that his sister was finally bothering someone else instead of him, but on the other hand, he wasn't used to the displays of affection between these two. They seemed disgusting to someone as purely single as himself. And so, what's your plan? Ulti asked. Simple, right now that woman shouldn't be here. We'll kidnap her 2 sisters and leave her a message, telling her to come to Onigashima to negotiate for their release. Otherwise, we won't be responsible for their lives. Jigen quickly outlined the plan. You. How do you know she has 2 sisters? Perhaps. Ulti dramatically covered her mouth, not paying attention to the plan. You had a relationship with them. Aransu. Her voice suddenly took on a dangerous tone. Jigen rolled his eyes and sighed. I simply did some research. I had never met any of them before. Darling, could you focus on the plan? If we waste time, she might come and it'll be more troublesome. Jigen tried to calm Ulti. Ulti squinted her eyes at Jigen and calmed down. Fine. I've been in a bad mood lately. I don't really understand what you want to do here, but you just need to tell me who to take down, and we'll take them. Ulti said confidently. Jigen sighed in relief at seeing this, but at the same time, he felt uneasy due to Ulti's bipolarity. Alright, it'll be easy with that Empress out of the way. She should still be on the battlefield. Hold it right there, you damn man. Suddenly, a shout interrupted Jigen. The 3 of them looked in that direction and saw a blonde woman chasing after a boy tirelessly. Chapter 96, Returning. Hold it right there, human. A group of women led by a blonde woman chased after a boy wearing a straw hat. "What's your problem with me?" The straw hat boy, named Luffy, kept running away from these terrifying women. It wasn't until he approached the group of 3 who were watching the spectacle that Luffy reacted. The women from Amazon Lily also stopped as they looked incredulously at Jigen, Ulti, and Page 1. More men, and a strange woman. What's happening today? The short-haired blonde woman named Margaret said, somewhat annoyed. They're truly something sexy. Page 1 couldn't help but praise Margaret due to her peculiar attire. What did you say, you bastard? Ulti became enraged upon hearing her brother's comment. However, Margaret and the other guard women had no interest in the sibling quarrel. Execute these men, and capture the woman alive. The Empress will decide what to do. The captain of the women's group ordered. Ah. Not again. Luffy couldn't help but run away again. To his understanding, the arrows shot by these women were extremely dangerous. Jigen looked at this and shook his head. He did not expect to encounter Luffy right here. Truly a twist of fate. Well, let's stop with the nonsense. Jigen's face turned serious as his eyes landed on the women in front of him. It's better this way, causing a lot of commotion will surely make that old dwarf and her 2 targets show up. You bitches, I really want to beat you to death. A killing intent flashed in Ulti's eyes as she took out her small mace. Very well, let's test the bounties for the air cannon that I couldn't previously test. Jigen muttered as his body emitted an invisible force that affected everyone around him. Yes, it was Haki. Jigen awakened Conqueror's Haki after successfully creating the air cannon. Several black sparks danced around him as a large group of women fell one by one. Their eyes rolled back and foam came out of their mouths. What an incredible feeling. Jigen closed his eyes and said as he clenched his fists, feeling his spirit rebel against the chains that this world tried to put on them. Shit. He has the same ability as His Majesty. Margaret couldn't help but drop to her knees as she watched her friends fall unconscious. Luffy also stopped to watch the spectacle. He has the same power as that old guy in Sabiti. Luffy said. Sister, he awakened it. Page 1 looked at this scene in complete shock. As expected of my man. I knew he wasn't just a simple scientist. Ulti said with immense affection in her tone. Jigen looked disappointed as most of the women fell unconscious and couldn't help but say. It was just a simple test, and there are barely even half of you left. What will I do now when I try out my intermediate armament Haki? Jigen said with feigned fury. Margaret became enraged upon hearing this. Human, don't underestimate us. She said as she stood against her will and shot several arrows infused with Haki towards Jigen. Jigen smiled and his hand turned completely black. He caught and shattered arrow after arrow. Impossible, you can use it too? Margaret was shocked to the extreme. It must be said that they often don't have such fierce and competent visitors in battle. After all, they are in the first half of the Grand Line. Very well, enough with the tests for now. Let's get to the matter we came for. I want to see if that old hag lives up to the reputation of the former empress of this island. Jigen laughed as he casually put an air cannon on his pinky finger. He intended to use it in case he was underestimating the power of the great elder of this island. It must be said that in the previous era, monsters were the most prevalent in this sea. On the other hand, as time passed, Kaido and Big Mom contacted King one after another in the banquet hall of Onigashima, asking him to open the gate for their return. They employed this strategy before to prevent the enemy from accidentally obtaining a magic gate. It would be a catastrophe for them if that were to happen. Although the two claimed to have returned one after the other, their faces were the same, and they returned with a smile. After meeting with Big Mom, Kaido casually asked, Linlin, how was the use of the cannon? At that moment, Big Mom was still extremely excited, dancing and saying, that brat's invention is truly amazing, I love this air cannon so much. I took a shot at a time, directly attacking the Whitebeard pirates. You should have seen how that old man tried to escape while protecting his sons, Mama. Mama. Big Mom's bloated body danced as she raised her middle finger with the air cannon on it, making a vulgar gesture in front of Kaido. This is because Kaido didn't understand the meaning of this gesture. If it were Jigen, he would sever ties with this woman on the spot. I had a lot of fun with that brat from the Red Hair Pirates too. I successfully made them exhausted from fending off all the bins we plundered. Me too. Big Mom repeated. Just as Kaido and Big Mom were boasting about their own records this time, Doflamingo also contacted King and asked him to open the gate to allow his return to Onigashima. As soon as he returned, he wanted to find Jigen, only to find out that Jigen was out of Onigashima, which disappointed Doflamingo. He wanted to praise Jigen and gain access to more of his technologies. Kaido smiled and said, Joker, how's the record this time? Chapter 97, Testing the Time Chamber again. Doflamingo excitedly recounted everything. In the end, he He patted the air cannon on his arm and exclaimed, "Long live the scientific disaster of the beast pirates." To be honest, Doflamingo now feels more attached to this air cannon than his cherished oar. After all, this time he has experienced the feeling of being close to 4 Emperors level combat. King and Queen also felt jealous and regretful when they heard this. If it were them using air cannons to enter the battlefield, how awesome would that feel? After everyone discussed enthusiastically for a while, Kaido solemnly said, "Since we have already tested the real combat effect of the air cannon, the effect is far beyond our imagination. So, the entire crew will prepare for battle. Once Jigen returns and makes some more air cannons, we will go rescue Jack and Linlin's child. We will make the Marines suffer greatly this time, and I want Impel Down to be the first to fall to our power." Kaido addressed all members, whether they were from the Beast Pirates or Big Mom Pirates. Everyone simply listened with excitement to this statement. They wanted to see with their own eyes what kind of effect this air cannon could have that would excite their captain so much. On the other hand, Big Mom's excitement did not wane. She raised her middle finger with her air cannon and gestured in front of Kaido, saying, "Kaido, what are you waiting for? Let's go now, I can't wait to fight again." 3 air cannons are enough to blow up Impel Down. They are enough to turn the underwater prison upside down. Even if the Marines set up an ambush, there is no need to fear with the arbitrary door. Kaido gave a sound and waved his hand. "Naturally, I know that this is enough to turn Impel Down upside down. But this time, Jigen said he would personally go to rescue Jack. We have no choice but to wait for him to return. It's rare for Jigen to present his own ideas to me, as the captain. No, it's natural to fulfill this whim of his." The current Kaido respects Jigen as an equal. Something that only happens with King since he rescued him in that laboratory in the past. When Big Mom heard this, she couldn't help but ask, "Where did that brat go?" "Wurororo. He went to the Island of Women for some business with the help of the door. He shouldn't take long to come back." Kaido laughed loudly as he told Big Mom. Big Mom. She was genuinely speechless. In a situation like this, where the entire sea is your enemy, do you really have the mood to go have fun on the legendary Island of Women? As soon as Big Mom heard this, she immediately abandoned the idea of going to Impel Down at this moment. The other members of each side also have no objections. Just more time to prepare for the impending battle. Kaido smiled. During this period of time, all we have to do is train. Anyone who wants to enter the time chamber can do so without hesitation. Kaido raised his mace as a show of power. When Big Mom heard about the time room, she suddenly became energetic, her eyes lit up, and she said, "Kaido, is that the training artifact I heard about before?" "Yes." Kaido proudly confirmed. Quick, take me there." Big Mom seemed to have found something interesting to do while waiting for the moment of action. She had heard Kaido mention it before, but never had the opportunity to experience it, and now she finally had a chance. Doflamingo looked at Big Mom so excited and couldn't help but be extremely interested. "Kaido, what is this time room?" He had never heard of it before. This time Kaido didn't respond, but King told him. "It's a training artifact invented by Brother Jigen, which looks like a room called the Time Room." Doflamingo was immediately surprised. He had another invention? King nodded. "That's right. Since the newcomers have used the Time Room recently, we haven't even had a chance to practice. The air cannon is Brother Jigen's 5th super technology." Doflamingo and all the members of the Don Quixote family in the distance were stunned. In the first 2 months, he developed 5 super technologies. What kind of concept is this? On average, he releases a new technology every 6-7 days. That guy is completely insane. He wants to disrupt the balance of this world. Doflamingo couldn't help but sweat. Doflamingo still wanted to ask about the details of the time room, but seeing that Kaido was already leading the way for everyone, he had to suppress his curiosity and closely followed the Grand Army. Initially, the time room was located in the banquet hall, and King arranged it to be on the floor below this enormous skeleton building, creating an underground training field. Soon, everyone arrived at the time room. Not many people paid attention to the exterior of the time room. They couldn't wait to enter the interior of the time room. After everyone passed through a dimly lit corridor, their eyes suddenly lit up. Although the time room was located underground, it was still bright, as if they had entered another world. And the interior was endless. The space was so big it seemed ridiculous. This scene left Big Mom, her family, Doflamingo, and his subordinates directly stunned. Chapter 98, Alliance, 1. How did he build this time house? Big Mom exclaimed in surprise. This is simply creating a world. Katakuri took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. It's so spectacular, can this really be done with technology? Doflamingo's voice trembled. The Big Mom pirates and the Don Quixote family entered the time house for the first time, which surprised them. Does Jigen really have the power of a god? Kaido sneered. Does this surprise you? If I say that the flow of time here is 30 times faster than that of the outside world, what kind of expressions will you show? Kaido's stubborn pride was too much. Except for the beast pirates, the audience was in an uproar. They felt that even if they found the One Piece, it wouldn't surprise them at all. It's simply the feeling of a meteor hitting the earth and the world being destroyed. Their view of the world collapsed. At this moment, no one knew what to say. Kaido looked at the expressions of Big Mom, Kitakuri, Doflamingo, and the others, and laughed. As everyone slowly digested what they had in front of them, they all began to enter to train. At first, the two main forces like the Big Mom pirates and the Don Quixote family had to test their gravity limit. Just like the beast pirates did at first. As practice went on, everyone started to feel unsatisfied with practicing alone. Kaido and Big Mom got on the bar, both exerting 20 times the gravity on their bodies and then started fighting each other. And with them as precedents, soon Doflamingo and Kitakuri also fought, and in the middle, King and Queen also joined. Because Jigen said he would rescue Jack himself, Kaido planned to wait for him to return before attacking Impel Down. Then, Kaido and all his allies entered the time room and began preparing for the upcoming battle. Everything seems to be calm again, but this time the storm created by the beast pirates' scientific disaster is not so easy to calm down. In the second half of the New World, the red-haired pirate ship sailed alone on the sea. At that moment, everyone on the plywood was coming and going, all filled with fatigue. After Kaido's attack this time, their losses were not small, and this time everyone is counting the losses. On the bow, Shanks and Ben Beckman are alone, looking out at the sea. At that moment, the expressions on their faces were somber and powerless. After a while, Ben Beckman was the first to speak. I didn't expect this new invention to be so terrifying. If Big Mom and her crew also get hold of this cannon due to their alliance, we will truly be in trouble. Shanks had a solemn expression. Ben Beckman's strength is close to his own, and it is precisely because of this that the Red Hair Pirates were able to escape from the battlefield in the face of Kaido's indiscriminate bombardment. If Big Mom's crew has this new technology, it would be a disaster. But if you think about it clearly, it's actually not that scary. Shanks crossed his hands over his chest and said softly. Now that his broken arm has healed, he really likes this action, which can make him feel the recovery of his arm. He touched his arm and said, "What's scary is the combination with the senzu beans." From the fight with Kaido, it can be seen that the consumption of this cannon is truly enormous. It is estimated that Kaido, in his best state, can only launch 3 or 4 rounds before becoming exhausted. However, with the existence of the senzu bins, it's like having infinite bullets. The combination of bins and the air cannon can be considered a great asset on the battlefield. And each attack is devastating. Just as the two were communicating, an island appeared on the horizon. At that moment, Yusuf, who was standing on the lookout, shouted, "Boss, we have arrived at the promised island. This is the place where they agreed to meet when Whitebeard sent a letter." Shanks responded with a nod. "Everyone stay on the ship," Shanks said. He intended to take only his crew members with him. But boss, in case Whitebeard. Some crew members were worried and felt that this was not appropriate. However, Shanks shook his head. Soon, all of Shanks' crew members along with their captain disembarked on the island. Unexpectedly, the Whitebeard pirates had not arrived yet, so they started drinking among themselves. The ships of the two sides are docked in 2 different directions of the island, which can be considered as a bit of maneuvering room for both sides, showing mutual respect. Whitebeard also decided to bring only some of his captains to meet Shanks, while the others stayed behind to repair the ship from Big Mom's attack. This time Whitebeard was delayed due to the damage to his ship. Soon, Shanks and Whitebeard met. After seeing the embarrassed appearance of everyone in Whitebeard's group, Shanks and Ben Beckman and the others were slightly surprised. Shanks directly asked, "Were you also attacked by the air cannon?" On the opposite side, Marco was surprised. "You guys too?" Shanks' crew looked defenseless and nodded. Shanks reluctantly said, "Us too. Yesterday we were even more embarrassed than you. We only recovered after a day of rest. After all, most of our senzu bins ran out and we only have some for emergencies. As for low-level combat power, this kind of loss is inevitable, of course. These losses have no effect on a 4 Emperors' regiment." Chapter 99, Alliance, 2, Whitebeard also nodded. With the help of the senzu bean, no one was killed by that crazy old woman. It's really ridiculous. That smiled bitterly. After hearing the words, everyone fell silent, as the fact seemed to be true. I have a vague feeling that if this continues, the world will end up being dominated by the beast pirates. I've received news that several of my islands have fallen under Kaido's terrible rule. Whitebeard said solemnly. There was no refutation of Whitebeard's words. Currently, There is already such a trend. With this defeat of Shanks and Whitebeard, the beast pirates on the front lines have gained momentum and have been moving forward. Furthermore, under the influence of technology, all the major forces in the world have already come into play. After talking for a while about the scientific disaster Jigen, the topic inevitably returned to the air cannon. After all, this new invention left a deep impression on both groups this time. Whitebeard said solemnly. Have you come up with any countermeasures? Shanks smiled ironically and shook his head. As long as they keep producing Senzu bins, this air cannon is invincible and there is no countermeasure. This time, this invention had no weaknesses at all unless it was several against one, thus preventing them from taking bins to recover. After everyone discussed for a while, the topic shifted to the main purpose of this meeting. Shanks emphasized again. Whitebeard, I know Ace may be the captain of the 2nd Division at a young age, and his strength is really strong, but it's not the time for him to contact Blackbeard. Shanks pointed to the scar on his eye and said. Look, this is what Blackbeard left me. I've been through countless battles and have countless scars on my body, but this scar is the only one that still hurts. In front of him, Whitebeard and the other pirates had strange expressions for some reason. After all, Shanks was simply pointing to his eye, which had no traces of wounds at all. Ben Beckman coughed and whispered to his captain. Shanks, when you first took the Senzu bean, all your scars disappeared. This time, the atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Shanks felt extremely embarrassed. It's like saying nonsense with something as serious as before. Fortunately, Whitebeard took the initiative to break the embarrassing situation and said solemnly. Shanks, you don't need to say any more. This time, I will grant your request. After all, Thatch has been resurrected. At this moment, Teach is not the current focus, the technology invented by the Beast Pirates is the focus. Upon hearing that Whitebeard had agreed to his request, Shanks felt relieved, as one of his objectives had been achieved. As the 2nd captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, Ace was a force that should not be underestimated upon his return. After Shanks finished talking about his main purpose, he asked Whitebeard. Whitebeard, why did you ask me to meet here this time? This time, it was Whitebeard who arrived on this island. Whitebeard's eyes were firm as he said. To form an alliance with you and deal with the Beast's pirates together, what is your answer, young Shanks? Shanks, Ben Beckman, and the crew under his command showed expressions of surprise and disbelief. Shanks couldn't help but laugh and unexpectedly said. Whitebeard, are you still the old Whitebeard I know? Would you really consider working with someone? Whitebeard sneered and looked at him. What's so strange about that? Now that the Beast's pirates are working with Big Mom pirates, if we're still in a mess, we'll only be defeated separately. Although I am a remnant of the old era, I also understand the principle of moving with the times. Shanks chuckled, naturally he had no opinion on this point. He looked at Whitebeard and smiled. Alright, Whitebeard, then I wish us a happy cooperation. Whitebeard also smiled happily. I wish us a happy cooperation. At that moment, he smiled again. Speaking of which, I suddenly thought of someone. Oh? Whitebeard seemed curious. Shanks smiled and said. Dark King really, we can invite him to join. I believe he will also be very interested in that super technology. Whitebeard was surprised. Really? I haven't heard that name in a long time. He said nostalgically. They were among the few who accompanied him in this new era. Isn't Rayleigh retired? I don't know if he's alive or dead now, can you find him? Shanks simply smiled. How could I die so easily? Now the new world is extremely dangerous, it's a confrontation between powerful forces. Many even stand at the entrance of the new world to recruit those who enter. Chapter 100, Ridiculous Meeting Impelled Down. The best Marines are stationed here at the moment, in case the Beast Pirates arrive at the prison before the execution. The original director's office was temporarily requisitioned by Sengoku at that time. By the way, Magellan, I'm a bit curious, if you knew that after eating the poisonous fruit you would spend most of the day in the bathroom, would you still choose to eat it? Garp asked with interest and a bit of mockery. Magellan was astonished by the question, feeling that Garp was making fun of him. And indeed, he was. And while Garp and Magellan chatted, the Dendenmushi in the office rang. Magellan unconsciously wanted to answer, but this time Sengoku answered. On the other end is the Marine spy reporting the latest gathered information. It was reported that the Beast Pirates once again invented a new technology, air cannon, and the latest news about Kaido and Big Mom's attack respectively. This made everyone in the office present look horrified. A single shot took down the entire Akagami regiment? Sengoku held his breath. Garp, a veteran who has experienced hundreds of battles, was also shocked. Those Akagami captains shouldn't be underestimated, especially their vice-captain. Did they really fall to a single Kaido? Such a record shows how terrifying this new invention is. Magellan, on the other hand, was astonished and shocked. The speed at which this man develops technology is too outrageous. To rely on a single piece of technology to take down an entire 4-emperor's regiment, are these news true? The spy on the other side said seriously, everything has been confirmed. I'm afraid the air cannon is even more outrageous than you think. If it weren't for the magic beans, I'm afraid they would have died, especially the 7 warlords of the seas, and Whitebeard and Akagami may have had casualties among several of their captains. In the central office of Impel Down, everyone was extremely serious about this information. Okainu solemnly said, it's a shame. Otherwise, it would be good if they weakened their strength among themselves, then we would be the ones laughing in the end. Sengoku disagreed with Okainu's viewpoint. No. This way, the entire new world will be controlled by the beast pirates. We still need Whitebeard's pirates and Akagami's pirates to contain the beast pirates. That's right. Especially now that they have invented a super weapon. According to the information, this weapon is comparable to an ancient weapon. He said solemnly. Everyone fell silent, still feeling the threat of the air cannon, as they heard Fleet Admiral Sengoku's words. In the silence, Okainu was the first to break the silence. He bit his smoky cigarette and said with an irritated expression. Instead of waiting here, it's better to go directly to Wano and snatch the new technology. No, we should capture that guy and force him to work with old Vegapunk. Okainu being extreme didn't surprise anyone. However, Sengoku stopped him. No. Our priority now is Impel Down. We have already devised a plan against the beast pirates, we can't just throw it away. Sengoku said. Once we attack, Kaido will take the opportunity to appear here and simply rescue Jack. The loss is acceptable to us, but once the other major prisoners also escape, the consequences will be disastrous for the world. That's right. Tsuru, also present, agreed with Sengoku. With Kaido's character, he will definitely come to rescue Jack. He won't let this embarrassment pass, thinking that it will ruin his reputation. We have to stay in Impel Down, and instead of taking the initiative, we could recharge our batteries now and wait for Kaido himself to come. Okainu snorted coldly. In his opinion they were all a bunch of cowards. To achieve victory, there will also be losses, but as long as you come out victorious in the end, those losses can be covered. After all, the world government offered full support to Sengoku. But since the Admiral said so, even if he didn't want to, there was no way. After all, the Admiral is the Admiral. He continued to bite his cigar and said in a bad tone, what will you do with that bastard Doflamingo? As a 7 warlords of the seas, working with the beast pirates is stepping on the face of the Marines. Everyone also noticed this, as Doflamingo undoubtedly betrayed the Marines. Sengoku took a deep breath and said, I will report this matter to the Gorosei, they will make a decision. Doflamingo's identity is special, even Sengoku must report what to do with his case, after all, this guy knows many things. At that moment, Sengoku's golden den mushi rang and the audience was tense, as it meant that the matter was serious. Could it be that something happened to the celestial dragons again? Sengoku didn't dare to be negligent and quickly answered. A voice sounded from the other side, arrogant and cynical, Mashi, is this Fleet Admiral Sengoku? Yes. Did something happen there? Sengoku quickly asked. Of course. Something big has happened, something big. The celestial dragons exaggerated on the other side. Sengoku's heart couldn't help but tighten, just like the other marine executives. Except for Garp, of course, he was still sitting calmly and had no sense of crisis. What's the problem? Is it necessary to send an admiral? Sengoku hurriedly asked. Although he cursed inwardly, after all, without an admiral, the battle that could unfold in Impel Down would be disadvantageous for them. It's not necessary, it's just that Saint Rose got something as amazing as the universal capsule, why not me? Damn it, this thing is really incredible, and it hasn't landed in my hand yet. Sengoku and the others present were immediately speechless. Just because of this incident, they called the Golden Den Mushi? Do you know what this Golden Den Mushi means? Can it be dialed casually? Of course, none of the executives said anything. Only Garp, who was standing aside, scolded them, picking his nose and saying, this group of trash really has nothing better to do in their daily lives. From the other side, the Tenri Ubito couldn't hear Garp's words clearly and said loudly. What? Who was talking? Why does it seem like I heard the word trash? Sengoku hurriedly explained, looking while explaining to Garp, who disagreed completely. Ignoring Garp, Sengoku wondered why the universal capsule would fall into the hands of a Tenri Ubito. Obviously, the 5 elders asked for it to be investigated, how it ended up in the hands of these troublesome people. Chapter 101, Fame grows. After some questioning, everyone learned that Street Rose was the one entrusted with delivering the universal capsule obtained from Jack to the 5 elders. But before delivering it, He showed it off in front of a group of 10 Ryubitos. After boasting, the other 10 Ryubitos immediately felt jealous and amazed by the magic of this universal capsule. That's why they would contact Sengoku and demand a capsule for each of them. As for using the special Den Mushi, he didn't even pay attention to it. In Magellan's office, everyone was speechless. This universal capsule is a strategic transportation artifact, and you're just showing off. It's simply scandalous. Just as Sengoku was thinking about how to refuse, 3 Den Mushi suddenly rang at the same time. They were from Kizaru, Aokiji, and Akainu. And indeed, they were all 10 Ryubitos asking for universal capsules. Obviously, it has already become famous in the eyes of these world nobles who were truly bored. Sengoku felt depressed. Rubbing his temples, he said directly, "The universal capsule is the technology of the beast pirates, not something of our marines. We marines work hard to get some, and we have to use them to fight." The 10 Ryubitos, who had a condescending tone on the opposite side, obviously weakened upon hearing this statement. Beast pirates? Are you referring to Kaido of the Beasts? Yes. Kaido of the Beasts is the main creditor of this thing. Sengoku secretly felt happy upon hearing the cowardly tone of the other party. The fact that a 10 Ryubito died under Kaido's mace is still fresh in their minds. Sengoku retorted. These things are the invention of the 4th Calamity of the Beast Pirates, who is a scientist. Suddenly, the 10 Ryubitos were instantly filled with joy. Don't you have a scientist in the Marines? I heard he's quite ingenious and that the things he researches are 500 years ahead of this era. Sengoku suddenly felt powerless. You're talking about Vegapunk, although he said he reproduced the technology, but the effects and functions are far from the real invention, and so far, the same technology has been reproduced. The celestial dragons on the opposite side immediately shouted garbage at Vegapunk after hearing this. This left Sengoku speechless. Then their tone returned to condescension again, ordering Sengoku loudly. Sengoku, I don't care what, Marine will give me one. The same goes for the celestial dragons on the side of the 3 admirals, no more are needed, 1 per person is enough. Of course. They can also bring us that scientist you mentioned. We are very interested in this type, we want him to be our private scientist and develop technologies for us. The comments from the 10 Ryubitos left everyone present speechless. They wanted to scold and yell at them that it's impossible. After all, if they could do it, they would have kidnapped him from the beast pirates a long time ago. That guy stays on Onigashima all the time and it's impossible to kidnap him with the strength that the marine spies infiltrated in Onigashima have. And even less to kill him. Finally, Sengoku restrained himself, sighed silently, and gave a satisfactory answer to the 10 Ryubitos. Alright. We, the Marines, will work hard to capture him. Meanwhile, at the Sabati archipelago, Rayleigh returns to the bar. Inside the bar, Shaki looked at Rayleigh with a cigarette in her mouth and joked. Oh who? Do you know how to come back? Rayleigh laughed and said. Of course I have to come back, but staying here makes me feel more comfortable and the wine here is also the best. Shaki rolled her eyes at Rayleigh. After so many years with him, she also understood his virtues and stopped chatting. She took a drag from her cigarette and said. Rayleigh, you've been missing recently after the incident with Monkey-chan, do you know the news in the New World? Rayleigh waved his hand and said. What should we pay attention to? That is to say, the open and secret battles between the 4 emperors are harmless battles, and the current situation will only continue until a newcomer breaks this balance. I really have high expectations for that brat, I hope he's alright. Shaki looked at Rayleigh melancholically and said. Rayleigh, the new world has changed, a storm has arrived. One unleashed by Kaido. Rayleigh drank his drink and after hearing the words, showed an unexpected expression. What? But he didn't take it too seriously and asked casually. What's the situation? Shaki no longer hid it and told Rayleigh about the recent news from the New World. Rayleigh once again made an unexpected expression. Kaido. That's right. Kaido recruited a boy named Jigen some time ago, and unexpectedly named this boy as the 4th Calamity, the scientific Calamity. Rayleigh couldn't help but say. This boy must have something that could make the dragon who advocates violence recognize him to such an extent. Hee hee. Shaki smiled significantly. I'm afraid that no matter what force this boy called Jigen goes to, he will be instantly appointed to an important position and become a superior. Shaki's words immediately piqued Rayleigh's interest. Huh? Why do you say that? Chapter 102, Unexpected Visit. In just 2 months, the scientific disaster has developed super technology that has shocked the world's major forces. Rayleigh was immediately interested and Shaki continued. I heard that the beast pirates use these super technologies to repel the white-beard pirates, causing them great losses, even the red-hair pirates. This made Rayleigh show a very surprised expression. Is that boy really that unruly? The technology he developed can actually lead the war situation at the Four Emperors level. Are you serious, Shaki? I haven't paid much attention to the outside world recently and then you use false information to deceive me? Shaki looked at Rayleigh blankly but didn't respond. The two had known each other for years and Rayleigh knew that this time everything Shaki said was true. Rayleigh was quite excited and at the same time, he was very interested in these super technologies and kept asking, but Shaki didn't have a clear understanding of the details. In the end, Shaki simply sighed. I'm afraid their technological level has far surpassed Vegapunk. That's what everyone is saying. The future generations are terrible. Rayleigh also sighed. I really want to have a super technology to play with, to study what powerful abilities it has. Just as Rayleigh was thinking whether to get an arbitrary door to play with or not, suddenly his eyes narrowed slightly beneath his glasses. You have so much free time, he murmured with a smile. Not long after, the door of the tavern opened and sunlight shone on a figure. Rayleigh immediately drew a curve at the corner of his mouth, and there were surprises and astonishment in his eyes as he smiled. It's really rare. I didn't expect one of the Four Emperors to visit this broken tavern today. Shanks interjected. The backlight of his body disappeared, revealing his smiling face. Rayleigh-san, you still like to tease me so much. Shanks came to the Sabati archipelago to meet Rayleigh. After the two met, they began to reminisce for a while, and at that moment, Rayleigh was surprised. Shanks, your arm. Rayleigh was a little stunned for a moment and then continued. Has it grown back? What's going on? Shanks touched his healed arm and smiled. Rayleigh-san, have you heard recently about the new disaster caused by the beast pirates? Rayleigh immediately became interested. He had just learned about it from Shaki. Now that Shanks is here, and he is still involved, the intelligence report will definitely be more detailed. He couldn't help but say. Although I have retired, I naturally pay attention to the news every day. In the news, is the technology developed by the beast pirates scientific disaster really that good? Shaki, who was at the wine table, immediately rolled her eyes and said. Rayleigh, you're really shameless old man. Rayleigh ignored her with a smile. Isn't it the same? Shaki also understood Rayleigh's shameless temperament. Instead of arguing with him, she asked curiously. Let's talk about it. What are these super technologies? Shanks smiled and said. Of course it's true, otherwise the new world wouldn't have been in such a mess recently. Then your arm. Rayleigh pointed out. Shanks nodded and said. You guessed it right. My broken arm was healed by one of their technologies. Both Rayleigh and Shaki were shocked. Can it also treat a lost arm? Shaki wasn't completely convinced, even though the information she gathered said that Senzu Bean was a magical medicine, but treating a lost arm is too much. This medicine is too exaggerated. How do the bones, muscles, and nerves grow back? Rayleigh wasn't convinced either, but the fact is that Shanks' arm has recovered in front of him. Shaki couldn't help but approach from behind the bar. She caressed his arm and was amazed as she touched it. Oh my god, you actually regained your arm. That technology is too fierce. Ben Beckman shook his head and said. Don't be too fierce, at Shaki, you know. This bin can also bring the dead back to life. As soon as these words came out, Rayleigh's eyes under his glasses widened. It still has the effect of resurrecting the dead. Tell me you're joking this time? Shaki was also very surprised, but still couldn't help but say first. Ben Beckman, you're too old. Is it appropriate to call me aunt? Call me sister. Ben Beckman was stunned. He didn't expect Shaki to be able to refute his youth in such a shocking situation. He had to feel that a woman's thought process was really different from that of men. In her last year, Shaki was a well-known acquaintance of her own captain, so he also followed Shaki's ideas and called her sister. Ignoring the older part. Shanks nodded. How else do you think Kaido of the Beasts was able to deflate Whitebeard so much? Shanks smiled and told them about the rest of the technologies that Jigen has created so far. This is too scandalous. It feels more complicated than the ancient weapons, especially this air cannon. Rayleigh murmured with excitement. If that magic door becomes popular, no one will be able to sleep peacefully in the entire sea, even those Tenryubito bastards. Shaki said, resting her chin on her hand. If that happens, the entire balance of the sea will collapse. It's safer to keep these things in responsible hands. Shaki couldn't help but exclaim. Sister Shaki is right, but before monopolizing these technologies, we need to fight against the beast pirates, and to fight against them, we need all the personnel we can get. After all, that air cannon is too terrifying, even for me. Rayleigh and Shaki listened intently to Shanks' serious words. As he spoke, Shanks made a gesture with his hand. Can you believe it? This thing is so small that it fits in Kaido's claw when he transforms into a dragon. As a result, they almost killed my entire crew. At the beginning of their inventions, there was no problem. After all, We also grabbed many magical beans. But now everything is completely different with the development of this weapon with terrifying power. Furthermore, the most important point is that this weapon consumes a lot of your physical energy. We suspect it also consumes your hockey. But the most fucked up thing is that you can recover again with a magical bin and shoot 3 or more times. Shank's detailed narration left Rayleigh and Shaki stunned. Chapter 103, It's Time. This time Kaido has really found a treasure. This technology is simply a dimensional reduction technique. Shanks shook his head helplessly. If Kaido had that guy back then, I'm afraid Roger would have had a hard time reaching the final island. Rayleigh said with a nostalgic smile. But it would have been a good thing too, wouldn't it? The captain's illness could have been cured. Shanks also smiled nostalgically. The two sighed in excitement for a moment and reminisced about the old times. Rayleigh held back his thoughts and said with a smile. It's possible that in the future, that guy might develop a technology capable of traveling to the past. Now I'm really interested in this matter. Rayleigh said. Shank's eyes suddenly lit up and he struck while the iron was hot. Rayleigh-san, this time I came to you because I actually wanted you to return to the sea and help me and Whitebeard deal with Kaido and Big Mom. Those two have formed an alliance. Rayleigh was slightly surprised. You and Whitebeard? Shanks, are you allied with Whitebeard? Shanks nodded. Yes, after all, it's too much for me to deal with Kaido alone, especially with that annoying old hag. Whitebeard also encountered problems and it was him who proposed this alliance. What's your choice, Rayleigh-san? Would you like to accept my invitation? Rayleigh pondered for a moment and finally, instigated by Shaki, accepted Shanks' invitation. He chuckled and said. But Shanks, I'm afraid I'm too old to help you. Shanks scoffed. Don't be humble, even Whitebeard is very strong now. Besides, with this bean, even if you won't return to the top, you can heal any hidden illness or injury you have. Rayleigh's eyes suddenly lit up and he planned to first try out this famous bean. So far, Rayleigh, the former vice captain of the Roger Pirates, accepted Shanks' invitation and once again chose to return to the sea, go to the New World to find trouble with Kaido, and seize some technologies. He also has the idea of chatting with this mysterious scientific disaster, wanting to clarify his doubt of whether it is really possible to invent something to travel to the past. Several days have passed in an instant. The Beast Pirates, Big Mom Pirates, and the Don Quixote family have all entered the time room to practice, waiting for Jigen's return. Meanwhile, in the laboratory, more and more air cannons and senzubans are being created under Yamato's strict supervision. She and Jigen had reached an agreement that as long as they win this joint war, he will release her from her chains forever and personally take her out of Wano through a magic door. By the way, she will be given another one, so it doesn't end up in her father's hands again. The sea was calm, as if it were the interlude to a great battle that would shake the entire sea. However, this kind of calm made the main forces uneasy. It was like the silence before a storm. Onigashima Kaido and the others stayed in the time house for a few months thanks to the time distortion. At that moment, the crowd formed a circle, and within the circle, Kaido stood alone in the center. Gravity stickers were placed on his body and his entire person was filled with momentum, like an extremely ferocious beast. Kaido clenched his teeth, his muscles swelled to their limit, his body trembled violently, and it seemed like a force was trying to overwhelm him, but in the end, he persevered. The people around cheered loudly. Kaido-sama. Kaido-sama. Congratulations to Kaido-sama for successfully challenging 53 times gravity. Kaido-sama's strength has increased again, haha, it's truly amazing. King and Queen also smiled silently. After a while, the gravity on Kaido's body was lifted, and Kaido collapsed and was about to fall to the ground, but he used all his remaining energy to prevent himself from falling. Quickly, his subordinates hastily brought a bin to restore Kaido's physical strength, and when the bin fell into his mouth, Kaido immediately returned to his normal state. Boom. He took the form of a blue dragon, soared high into the sky, and roared at the holographic sky within the room of time. After several months of practice inside, he surpassed his limit and successfully reached the threshold of 53 times gravity. The faces of the others were also filled with joy, and almost everyone who entered the training this time raised their limits and greatly improved their strength. While everyone celebrated, someone from the outside world entered to report, Kaido-sama, Jigen-sama has returned. Kaido, Big Mom, Doflamingo, and the others immediately had even happier expressions on their faces. Well, clock. Today is truly a happy day. Whirrororo. Kaido laughed as loudly as ever. He immediately shouted. Let's go. Let's go to the banquet hall, let's have a grand feast before the great battle against the Marines and the world government. That's right. I want lots of sweets, Prospero, take care of it. Big Mom happily ordered. Hi, Mama. Everyone else did the same, preparing to go to the banquet hall to welcome Jigen. Damn you, you'll get your karma, don't think you can blackmail our sister for this. Jigen heard the resentful voice of his target as he stretched. Sander, Sonia and Marigold were chained up as they cursed Jigen and Page 1. Stay calm, I just want to prevent her from participating in this war, her devil fruit power is too troublesome for our troops. The majority of the beast pirates were wild, hungry, and perverted. Without a doubt, they would fall before the power of this pirate empress. If even Blackbeard's crew members were completely defeated, who could guarantee that a large part of the beast pirates wouldn't as well? Furthermore, Jigen had no intention of being too dominant, he just wanted Hancock to join the beast pirates' cause and turn this world upside down. Additionally, his goal remained the same: to create more and more technologies until he reached enough strength to protect himself from the world government and all its secrets. Meanwhile, let's use the beast pirates as shields, as the first and second lines. Jigen had to admit that there was no place where he would be as protected and free at the same time as here in Onigashima. Chapter 104, Warm Return. As Jigen entered the main hall, where banquets were usually held, he couldn't help but roll his eyes at the commotion. Whoa, Jigen, you're finally back, we were starting to worry. Kaido sighed in relief at seeing Jigen without a scratch. How hypocritical of you, Kaido. Big Mom said with malice upon hearing Kaido's lie. More than worried, he was completely sure that Jigen was fine. He only said that to make it seem like he cared about his subordinate, when Kaido didn't even care about himself. And so, ready to assault him, fell down. Those women? Kaido's brain suddenly short-circuited as he saw Jigen carrying those two women. He had been informed that Jigen traveled to Amazon Lily, the legendary island of women. Kaido couldn't think of anything else but Jigen having fun. After all, why else would you go to an island where there are only women? But seeing Jigen bring two women, whose attributes didn't favor him, Kaido felt strange. It's not that he had anything against them. It's just that compared to his adopted daughter Alti, these two women paled in comparison. Jigen seemed to guess his captain's thoughts and quickly said before Alti got upset. Captain, it's not what you think, these two women are blood sisters of the famous pirate Empress Boa Hancock. It would be good to have that woman on our side, after all, her devil fruit is a complete nuisance for our troops. Upon hearing Jigen's words, everyone in the Grand Hall nodded. After all, who didn't know the arrogant Boa Hancock? Wuro, I understand your point, it's good to know that you also care about us. Well, throw them in the dungeon and celebrate with us before the upcoming battle. Jigen nodded and walked towards the Onigashima dungeon with Page 1. He looked forward to how the arrogant pirate empress would come begging for the release of her beloved sisters. Any other person wouldn't even think of this, but he, who knows the story, knows perfectly well the love and appreciation these three sisters have for each other. After giving the Boa sisters a good comfort, Jigen walked towards the banquet hall with Page 1. He hadn't even reached the banquet hall yet when there was a burst of enthusiastic cheers in the banquet hall. Long live the scientific disaster. At this moment, the entire banquet hall was filled with the beast pirates and Big Mom pirates. This surprised Jigen a little. What Jigen didn't know is that everyone had entered the time room to train in the past few days. Basically, the strength of these people has improved tremendously, which makes them sincerely grateful to Jigen, the inventor of the time room. However, Jigen didn't take it seriously. With a smile on his face, he waved his hand to greet everyone and approached the stand in the banquet hall. This place was originally a stage for everyone to be entertained and enjoy opera, but now it has turned into a showcase of technology for Jigen. Kaido broke the threshold of 50 times gravity in the time room, and the gravity he could withstand reached 53 times, which made him very happy. The training of others also paid off. Their physique, reflexes, combat experience, hockey, swordsmanship, control of their devil fruit. Everything has improved in every living being that entered the time room while Jigen was away. This made them feel extremely grateful to Jigen, who developed the time room. So they all expressed their desire to go to the banquet hall to meet the scientific disaster. Amidst the enthusiastic applause of the crowd, Jigen stepped onto the stand in a daze. He didn't understand why these people were so excited today. Below, Big Mom couldn't wait to ask. Jigen, how are you doing this time? Jigen touched his nose and said proudly. Although I've been away for a few days, there's enough for everyone. Jigen knew what this troublesome woman was referring to. That being said, he took out the universal capsule and took out more than 10 air cannons, not only air cannons, but also a bunch of bins and various other capsules, so that not only the beast pirates, but also the Big Mom pirates and the Don Quixote family could have various toys as well. Kaido looked at so many objects and laughed heartily. At this moment, he felt more and more that Jigen was his lucky star. Even Doflamingo was excited. He felt that joining the Beast Pirates Alliance this time was indeed the right choice. As for whether the Marines will get angry and strip him of his title as 7 Warlords of the Seas, he will simply ignore this for now. There is currently a more profitable business than ruling Dressrosa. After all, strength comes first. Strength is everything in a world like this. Big Mom was the most excited of the three. She jumped and stomped on the cabin with her huge body, shaking the entire cabin. Mama! Mama, you're really amazing, brat. I feel like I'm falling in love with you. Jigen felt his hair stand on end upon hearing this expression. That being said, Big Mom wanted to lift Jigen up again, but this time Jigen easily avoided it. Jigen's heart was filled with fear. This giant woman was so excited that if she accidentally pushed too hard, she would break several bones. Auntie. Jigen hastily stopped the ant, distracting her thoughts and saying, "Don't get too excited, don't get too excited. I have another good thing exclusively for you." Chapter 105, Prelude to War. With that said, Jigen quickly brought out a random door to avoid the risk of bone fractures. Seeing the arbitrary door, Big Mom actually changed her mind and happily went to the arbitrary door, holding it as happily as a child receiving a toy. It's finally here, it's finally here. I also have an arbitrary door. Big Mom was truly excited. Katakuri's eyes also showed a rare joy. That's great. He silently murmured to himself, secretly clenching his fists. This way, once the alliance between the Big Mom pirates and the Beast Pirates breaks, they will also be able to obtain their own arbitrary door. For pirates, no cooperation is 100% reliable. Everyone benefits. Once interests become inconsistent, the relationship will break. This is inevitable. After all, Kaido and Big Mom, before thinking about their friendship, will think about their responsibilities as captains. Especially Big Mom, who adores her entire Charlotte family. Jigen laughed on stage, looked at all the Big Mom pirates, and said, "As long as you sincerely cooperate with us Beast Pirates, the benefits in the future will naturally be indispensable. Don't think that my capacity limit is just this simple door. With time, the things I create will blow your capacity for understanding." Everyone was excited by the speech. Big Mom held the arbitrary door and didn't care at all. She laughed and said, "Jigen, what are you talking about? Kaido and I are old friends, and we will definitely not do anything that violates the interests of both parties and breaks the alliance. Of course. The most important thing is that I don't want to lose the alliance with someone like you." Everyone in the Big Mom pirates applauded for what their mother said. However, among the crowd below, Doflamingo was very jealous after seeing this scene. He obviously also wanted a door. After thinking about it, he asked, "Jigen-san, how much does this arbitrary door cost for my Don Quixote family?" Big Mom bought it for 2 billion Baileys. Jigen said directly, not hiding it. He knew this guy was loaded with Baileys. 2 billion Baileys were nothing for someone who does big business with the Marines, the world government, the underworld, and pirates. When Doflamingo heard this, he suddenly felt a fire in his heart, smiled, and respectfully said, "Jigen-san, since Big Mom was able to buy it, can you also sell it to our Don Quixote family?" He also feels a lot of envy for this. First of all, he is a weapons dealer. The magic door can provide him with convenience and make his business more prosperous. Don't underestimate that this is just to improve transportation efficiency. The distribution of transportation directly depends on how big the market can be. Secondly, he has now joined the Beast Pirates camp and is hostile to the most terrifying power in the sea. The world government and the Marines. Although he hasn't clashed face-to-face with the Marines yet, it's only a matter of time. Once they take away his 7 Warlords of the Seas title, the arbitrary door is to protect him and his family. An artifact that will prevent his immediate capture. However, Jigen directly rejected him at the stand and laughed. "Joker, your contribution to the Beast Pirates is seriously insufficient, not as much as Big Mom's, you're still behind. When you have contributed enough, not only can you obtain it, but you can also buy up to 2 doors." This made Doflamingo's face suddenly feel a little disappointed and excited at the same time. Compared to Big Mom, he couldn't compare to her in terms of his own strength or the power of his subordinates. It's a bit difficult to contribute enough to the Beast Pirates. Doflamingo suddenly thought of the artificial devil fruit. He is a businessman, and it seems that he can only start with that. After thinking for a while, after considering the gains and losses in his mind, he gritted his teeth and said to Jigen, "As long as you are willing to help me with this, I can give the Beast Pirates a big discount on the purchase of smiles." Jigen touched his nose and absent-mindedly said, "You shouldn't be telling me these things, you should discuss them with my captain. If he agrees, then it's fine." This can be considered as respect for Kaido. Kaido, drinking on the side, was really satisfied and full of joy. He laughed. Well, Jigen, you are actually qualified to make these decisions for me and King. As I said, seeing you is like knowing myself. Jigen smiled simply and then looked at Doflamingo and said, Joker, we, the beasts, accept your proposal. The main expense of the beast pirates is buying smiles. If it is only necessary to buy it at cost price, then the beast's pirates will have more liquidity, and Jigen can use this liquidity for scientific research and development. Why not? Thinking of this, Kaido laughed even more and said loudly, Jigen, you are the treasure of our beast pirates, come drink with us. Everyone looked at Jigen with admiration, even the members of the Tobi Rappo. Their respect for Jigen was on the same level as their captain. Jigen also felt really comfortable with the respect they had for him. After traveling to this world for about 5 months, he finally got a firm foothold in this world. This may just be the beginning. Then, Kaido also stepped onto the stage with Jigen. He waved his giant arm and said loudly, Everyone, it's time for us, the beast pirates, to rescue our own people. Are you ready? Ready. Ready anytime, anywhere. Captain, we can't wait. Yes, let's rescue Jack-sama. The entire Beast Pirates 4 Emperors Regiment raised their hands along with Kaido. Big Mom, who was also on the stage, responded. Jigen, if it weren't for waiting for you, we would have acted long ago. Chapter 106, War, 1. At this moment, Jigen's prestige has reached an unprecedented level. He has no experience speaking before the war, so he thought about it and emphasized. Our main goal this time is to rescue Jack and Cracker. Once they are rescued we can go after the other subordinates. The secondary task is to acquire Kairoseki. These things are basically common in Impel Down, so they are very easy to obtain. But everything is based on the premise of rescuing our partners. Kairoseki is just a secondary task, but it will be highly rewarded by me. Everyone below responded. No problem. That's right. These subordinate members don't care what Jigen's purpose is, but as he said, they simply do it and the others don't have to think about it. King curiously said. Jigen, we have Kairoseki in the storerooms, we can give it to you. Could it be? Queen quickly intervened and thought of something. Is it the material that will be used for the next new invention? For a while, everyone's breathing quickened and their eyes filled with anticipation as they looked at Jigen, waiting for his answer. Even Kaido and Big Mom looked at Jigen with excitement, waiting for his answer. He nodded and said with a smile. That's right. It's the material for the next invention. In an instant, the whole place was boiling. Everyone's minds exploded loudly. It hasn't even been 10 days and he already has a new invention in mind. Crazy. Truly crazy. How long has it been since the air cannon was invented? Isn't his too fast? By the way, what is this new invention? Everyone was extremely noisy, which was enough to show everyone's emotions at this moment. Passionate about this new technology. Kaido, King, Queen, the Big Mom pirates present, the Don Quixote family. All of them were also excited, thrilled, and deeply curious. Jigen, what is this invention? Kaido asked as usual, turning his head to look at Jigen. Jigen couldn't help but laugh at everyone's emotions. He also didn't expect everyone's reaction to be so intense. This left a bad taste in his mouth and he smirked. This time the invention will be kept secret like before. Only then will it have a new impact. Jigen, in addition to becoming strong through these new inventions, enjoyed seeing the ignorant faces when they saw a new technology. He couldn't spoil his training method. Mokuso, you have managed to capture my curiosity once again, tell us. Big Mom requested in a soft tone, which was really strange for her children. They were used to seeing their mother threatening others. However, Jigen still intends to keep it a secret, which makes everyone feel lost, longing, and anxious. Seeing the change in everyone's mood, Jigen couldn't help but laugh. You just have to wait a few days. Since we have Kairoseki, I have already prepared everything in advance. It's just that for large-scale production, a large amount of Kairoseki is needed, and in a few days a new invention will come out. You will naturally know. You don't need to wait a year or anything like that. Kaido, who was sitting down, couldn't help but get excited and laughed out loud. Jigen is right. Waiting is just a matter of a few days. With Jigen's research and development speed, maybe the day after we return from the operation, we can delight in this new technology. Everyone, cheer up. What we have to do next is our focus now. Everyone around thought it was very reasonable. Jigen had shown everyone how quickly he was developing technology. As it was like this a few days later, there was no difference between knowing it now and knowing it now. Soon everyone's disappointment disappeared, leaving only expectations and excitement for the future. At the same time, there is also excitement about going to Impel Down. No one has been able to turn this prison upside down for 800 years. Their actions this time will undoubtedly add a blow to history. Kaido took out his blue door directly and smiled. Everyone. Let's turn this world upside down. On the other hand, Impel Down remains the same as always, and no one has any idea about the alliance of the Beast Pirates. This is the terrifying part of the magic door, and that's why Big Mom is so excited to have her own. After obtaining it, she now has a giant sword hanging over the heads of the major forces in this world, because with a magic door, she can attack any force at any time and anywhere. Of course, there is a limit too. This time everyone can go to Impel Down because Kaido has been sent here many times before. Kaido, when we finish this, I want to go to that place and finish what our captain once started. What do you say, are you in? Big Mom whispered to Kaido before the great battle. Kaido on his side suddenly fell silent before laughing loudly. Wurro. You still haven't washed away that shame, right, Linlin? It just so happens that I haven't either. Alright, count me in. With the air cannon and Jigen's new technology, we can completely sink God Valley. We will take them completely by surprise, just like that red-haired bastard. Kaido's eyes turned fierce as he mentioned this name. Chapter 107, War, 2, Impel Down. At that moment, on the 6th floor of the prison, the 3 admirals were stationed here. Upon hearing the arrogant and dominant voices of the prisoners, Okainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru simply felt annoyed. Most of these prisoners were not afraid at all, and even mocked them. Okainu couldn't even control himself and burned 2 of them to the bone. Aokiji also had a bad temper and froze 3 more than Okainu. Kizaru was the only one who didn't care about anything. Because of this, the excitement and mockery of the prisoners calmed down a bit. But only a little bit. Okainu, come here and let me feel the temperature of your body. Haha, do you even want something like Okainu? You've been in prison for so long and you're so hungry? Okainu's face turned black. Naturally, he would kill this bastard who disrespected him, but Sengoku had informed them that they were not allowed to kill anyone else. If it weren't for the regulations put in place by their superior a few minutes ago, he would definitely shoot and kill this group of guys right now. Aokiji put a blindfold on and planned to sleep to avoid hearing the dirty words of these people. Kizaru found a stool, crossed his legs, and started trimming his nails. This guy, who likes to laze around, completely ignored the words and attacks of these prisoners. Hey! Okainu, let them speak. I heard Magellan boasting about the freedom of speech he claims to have in Impel Down. Besides, they're just venting. At that moment, a voice awakened everyone on the 6th floor. Okainu quickly looked up, looking at the corridor that seemed like an abyss. Kizaru also stopped what he was doing and looked. Aokiji took off the blindfold and looked as well. Not only them, but also the prisoners, felt the movement and looked in the direction that the 3 admirals were looking. What's the situation? Bullet frowned. He saw that in the center of the seemingly endless corridor, a door appeared. A blue door, with dragon tattoos, suddenly appeared in front of everyone. All the prisoners were stunned for a moment, their eyes filled with horror and they didn't understand what was happening in front of them. Why did a door suddenly appear? Red Earl was puzzled. The pupils of the 3 admirals instantly shrank, they had an idea of who it could be. He's finally here. Okainu clenched his fists. Kizaru's mouth twisted with bitterness, and Aokiji stood up with a whistle, ready to fight. In a cell, Jack, Cracker, and others under his command who were also imprisoned, became excited. Finally Jack laughed and said, "The magic door. Kaido-san is here to save me, Marines, are you ready to tremble?" Ha ha ha. Everyone around heard Jack's words. Bullet, red URL, Tsiryu, burned eye. All the big prisoners showed shock, and once again looked at the door. This is the rumored super technology of the scientific disaster. Magic door, also known as arbitrary door, meaning the door that can go wherever you want, anytime, anywhere. It's a bit scary to appear directly on the 6th floor of Impel Down without any warning. It was only this time that the powers of the old era realized the horror of the technology that appeared recently in the world while they were imprisoned. At the same time, their hearts are also slightly excited and their eyes are full of enthusiasm as they look towards the door. Since this could be an opportunity to escape from here. Whether by allying with the beast pirates or stealing some technology directly. Under everyone's eyes, the blue door opened and Kaido came out of it. There was a smile on his face, a confident and disdainful smile. With a deep laugh, the strongest creature entered the 6th floor of the underwater prison. Uff, Clokio. Kaido smiled as he stretched his old muscles and looked around. I really miss this place, especially causing chaos. Then he looked at an old acquaintance. Hey. Old URL, haven't you escaped yet? How pitiful you are. Didn't you boast to me about a seal last time, saying that you would definitely escape from this place? Kaido began to mock Red Earl as soon as he saw him. The latter didn't care about his mockery, laughed and shook his head. Then, Kaido spoke to Bullet, Suru. And so on. It seemed like a greeting, but in fact, Everyone knew that Kaido was boasting about unexpectedly arriving at the most restricted section of Impel Down. Finally, Kaido looked at the admirals. After letting out a disdainful laugh, he said, "I didn't expect the 3 admirals to personally receive me, what an honor," he said sarcastically. On the opposite side, none of the 3 responded to Kaido's taunts. They were ready to fight at any moment and find a way to report this situation. Naturally, the fastest of the 3, Kizaru, raised his arm and used the Dendenmashi he had on his wrist to contact the fleet admiral. Sengoku's solemn voice sounded on the other side and said solemnly, "Understood, we will immediately depart to support." On the opposite side, Kaido smiled and said, "Kizaru, contacting the Marine headquarters to mobilize their troops, aren't you afraid that we will attack and ransack the Marine headquarters while they are all here?" Chapter 108, Spectacular Arrival. The hearts of the prisoners from all sides were deeply moved upon hearing this fearsome 4 emperors of the New World. The arbitrary gate invented by his subordinate was extremely terrifying, and the Marines were truly defenseless against such a threat. "You can come and go as you please." Seeing the expression of the admirals, Kaido laughed proudly and then said, "Don't worry. I, Kaido of the Beasts, wouldn't do such a thing. I would simply fight you face to face. I am someone who detests intrigue, and you and the world government know it well." At that moment, Sengoku and others quickly arrived and reached the 6th floor of the underwater prison. Immediately, constant footsteps of clashing were heard, and Marine soldiers with weapons appeared. This surprised Kaido, but he didn't show much expression. He just sneered. "Oh? Sengoku, are you joining the party too?" As expected from the Marines, setting an ambush, this is how they can only suppress pirates. On the opposite side, Sengoku narrowed his eyes, glared at Kaido and said, "This time, you won't have the same luck of escaping. This will be your burial place, Kaido." At that moment, Kizaru noticed the ring on Kaido's finger. He couldn't help but point and lazily say, "Sengoku-san, look at his finger." Tsuru's eyes flickered for a moment in the control room, and she guessed. "Sengoku, it is very likely that this is the so-called new invention of that guy, the air cannon." Tsuru's Dendenmashi was always connected to Sengoku's, so she could help him in any war situation. Immediately, the prisoners around them exclaimed in disbelief. "Is it another invention? Oh my god, this guy is the definition of terrifying on every scale." Red URL, didn't you read about this technology from Jack's memory before? The Red Earl also felt a bit strange. He was very sure that when he read Jack's memory before, there was no new technology like the air cannon. That is to say, this new invention comes from these recent days. This made the great prisoners feel overwhelmed. "I'm getting more and more interested in the man behind these interesting toys." Bullet smiled and clenched his fists. It is the first time since the death of his former captain Roger and after being imprisoned, that he feels curious about someone in this sea. In a short period of time, 5 technologies have been developed. After Earl Red read Jack's mind, everyone learned about the existence of the time room. So when they hear that there is a new technology, naturally they are surprised. Developing a new technology is like playing house for the scientific disaster of the beast pirates. Just as everyone was amazed by the new technology, another random gate appeared between the difference in the different corridors. Big Mom and Doflamingo also entered the 6th floor of the underwater prison. Big Mom had her characteristic clothes, while Doflamingo dressed for the occasion. The same outfit, but with a different color, with a dark violet tone and blood-red glasses. As for Big Mom, she traveled through Doflamingo's gate, which curiously he had entered Impel Down before. It was the first time that Big Mom arrived at Impel Down and she couldn't help but feel a little curious. She looked around and saw some familiar faces in the prison that she hadn't seen in many years. She couldn't help but laugh. "Mama! Mama! It's really a shame to see how many renowned figures that once terrified the New World are reduced to cockroaches behind the cells of this prison." Doflamingo didn't feel as nostalgic as her, as he didn't know most of the prisoners, only by old bounty orders he won in various black market auctions. On the Marine side, he directly confronted the 3 forces. Sengoku narrowed his eyes and soon, from different directions, more and more Marines appeared. Garp, Zephyr, Momousagi, Dolphin, and many other strong men appeared as they took tactical positions against the beast pirates. Finally, Magellans, the prison director, also led the guards onto the stage. In a short period of time, the originally empty corridors of the 6th floor were crowded with Marines and Impel Down guards. The Marines formed a siege situation and surrounded the enemy forces. The 2 sides were engaged in a confrontation. Kaido looked around and couldn't help but say disdainfully, "They really underestimate us if they think this is enough to stop us. Ha ha ha. Mama. Mama. Is it useful? It's just a tool for us to enjoy." Big Mom laughed uproariously. Upon hearing the arrogant words, Sengoku snorted coldly. You really don't have us in your eyes. After speaking, he took out a universal capsule. With the expulsion of the capsule, heavy artillery and several heavy firearms appeared. The Marine soldiers were well trained. The moment these things appeared, they hurriedly took control. These weapons were aimed directly at all members of the Beast Pirates Alliance. This heated scene made the great prisoners in the prison exclaim, and they all widened their eyes. Was that the universal capsule from earlier? It's the first time I've seen it. Isn't it very small? This thing can actually store so many heavy firearms. Although I heard about it directly, but seeing it with my own eyes, I still think it's too unreal. Bullet also took a deep breath and then got excited. This universal capsule is custom made for me. He is a person with the ability to combine certain objects. He has also developed his fruit to awakening. He can merge them all together to become an abominable being. With this capsule, as long as it is filled with artillery and those things at any time, he can easily integrate it into himself in every battle. Chapter 109, Jigen makes his first appearance. If I have a chance, I must get one of those. Bullet muttered with a hint of wickedness. On the other hand, Earl Red had read Jack's mind before and had seen the scene in his heart, but it wasn't too surprising. However, what he saw in front of him still made him long for technologies like natural disasters. Center of the hallway. Kaido's eyes narrowed, filled with contempt. Is that all? That's why they made me come here? Kaido inexplicably became angry. Sengoku, are you the only one who has the capsule? You won't forget where the Marines got all these things, right? After speaking, Kaido shouted, and with his shout, the beast pirates came out of various arbitrary doors. After that, they quickly closed. Kizaru regretted not having the opportunity to steal one. In each door, there was a general guarding it. Among them were Kitakuri, king, queen. It was really difficult for him to snatch a door. And he couldn't go to the other side with his speed because his services were needed here in Impel Down. Ah! I really wanted one of those. This door will give me more free time and, above all, it will save me annoying trips. Aokiji next to him couldn't help but roll his eyes. Puff! Suddenly, a familiar sound was heard by everyone, followed by dense smoke. As the smoke cleared, more heavy turrets than the Marines appeared, along with many more heavy firearms, which were much more numerous than the Marines. The surrounding great prisoners exclaimed again and again, only to feel that the current battlefield is completely different from what it used to be. These people really forgot where they are, right? A prisoner couldn't help but exclaim in fear when seeing the two sides ready to face each other. This capsule is really a strategic artifact, Count Red said excitedly. And with the appearance of the members of the Beast Pirates, a voice suddenly resonated, Brother Jack, I am here to save you. The voice immediately shook Jack in the prison. He looked at the place where the voice appeared and saw the familiar voice and shadow. Indeed. It was his brother, Jigen. Jack was excited. He dragged the shackles on his body and shouted with ecstasy. Brother Jigen. Jack was moved by this. But after shouting, Jack couldn't help but worry. Hey, it's really dangerous here, you have to go. Come back quickly. And as expected, Jack's words stirred up the audience, whether they were Marines or the great prisoners. Sengoku quickly looked at the crowd of beast pirates, towards the person who was talking to Jack. It can be said that when Jack shouted Brother Jigen, all eyes in the audience were on Jigen. Jack has boasted so much about him that everyone on the 6th floor of Impel Down knows that Jigen is the name of the scientific disaster. The man who has caused an even greater uproar than Roger. Natural disaster. Sengoku's heart was turbulent. He had met Jigen and seen the man who brought great changes to the whole world in the past 2 months. Unexpectedly, he was young, too young. If at this age he is capable of so much, I wouldn't want to see what the future of this sea would be like if he is left unchecked. In the prison, the prisoners were also very excited. After seeing Jigen's appearance, the powers were very surprised. He's so young? Everyone had the same question in their heads. How can so much intelligence fit in such a young mind? Who hasn't even experienced the world yet? Earl Red had seen Jigen's appearance in Jack's memory, and he wasn't too surprised, but seeing him in person, he could see how young the boy was. This powerful scientist who is now causing a storm in the outside world has finally shown his face to the world. And precisely in Impel Down. Undoubtedly his appearance was grand. Okainu, Aokiji, Kizaru, Garp, Saru. They were all completely speechless. They still couldn't believe the scene unfolding before their eyes. They couldn't believe such monstrous talent in research in the body of a brat. Kizaru said with a yowl. If old Vegapunk were here, he would hide in a room and cry. Even he with so much knowledge had to be divided into parts. I don't want to know how much knowledge this kid has. Before, Vegapunk was very confident in telling him. The scientific disaster of the beast pirates must be an old scholar, much older than me, Who knows what methods he has to stay alive until now, after storing so much knowledge. But seeing him now, he is young, too young. Too young to shake the sea as he already is. Everyone in the Marines was also shocked. After all, they finally saw the true face of the scientific disaster. Some even had the urge to ask for an autograph and make friends with him. Okainu, on the other hand, for the first time thought the same as his superior, Sengoku. If they capture him, the world situation will take an extremely favorable turn for the Marines. However, for now, the battle was imminent, so they had to suppress the excitement in their hearts and focus on finally finishing off the beast pirates. It was time to restore the world's balance. Suddenly, Okainu's eyes vaguely looked at Doflamingo in the distance. His tone was extremely cold and he said angrily, "Doflamingo, you're really brave." MHMHMHMH. With a sneer of disdain, Doflamingo mocked. "Okainu, you don't scare me at all. I'm now a great admirer of the beast pirates. They can take the 7 warlords of the seas title and it." Chapter 110, in Impel Down, 1. Doflamingo didn't hesitate at all. After all, he has seen the beast's pirates in a new light. This made everyone in Manaford look extremely ugly. Okainu laughed angrily and mocked. "You really lost the pride of the Tenryubido." The prisoners around immediately became interested when they heard this. Although many of them were powerhouses from the old era, they didn't know Doflamingo, but when it came to celestial dragons, the world's #1 nobles, everyone was very excited. Happy to join in the fun. Both Kaido and Big Mom couldn't help but look at him to see how he would respond. The truth was that it seemed like he had been stabbed in the deepest pain of his heart. His expression became a bit painful, he furrowed his brows and the blue veins between his eyebrows twisted to express his anger. Pride of the Tenryubido. Hee hee. Doflamingo suddenly let out an unintelligible laugh, with a slightly eerie smile. At first, this group of trash still accepted his father's request to return to Holy Land. Is it still necessary to reduce him to his current situation? Do you still need to go over those painful memories of the past? Do you still need to endure the pain of killing his father and younger brother? Now, how could anyone tell him about the pride of the celestial dragons? Truly a great joke. The sadness on his face turned into a grim smile, his eyes beneath the sunglasses were like a demon. He raised his hand, the air cannon on his index finger aimed at Akainu, and it fired in the next second. At first, the surrounding major prisoners didn't pay too much attention to this air cannon. After all, it really looked like a toy. After the baptism of the universal capsule and the arbitrary gate, they all unconsciously ignored this and felt that it was nothing compared to these others. But reality slapped them hard. However, in the moment the air cannon was fired, in the moment the terrifying power was released, everyone's expressions changed. Red Earl was surprised. "Why can't I?" Bullet also raised his eyebrows, feeling incredibly the power displayed by this little thing. Some of the weaker prisoners simply froze. Akainu didn't care too much at first, since he was a Logia-type user, and he had confidence in his elementalization. Only as the attack approached, his pupils suddenly shrank and he felt a deep danger. As an admiral, in the moment the thought arises, his body instinctively made an evasive action, but because the distance was too close, he still got hit head-on. Immediately, Akainu's shoulder disappeared with half of his arm, and hot magma constantly flowed from his broken wound. Both Okiji and Kizaru were surprised to see this scene. "Hey! Did he get hurt?" Kizaru couldn't believe it. Both of them are strong in their fruit abilities, and they know very well that in the moment the attack was about to hit Akainu, Akainu elementalized his body, but still got injured. Okiji couldn't help but look at the air cannon on Brother Ming's finger, his eyes were very serious. One must know that Akainu, who developed a very powerful Logia fruit, whenever he is attacked, as long as he elementalizes beforehand, even if the attack brings Haki, it is difficult to cause him damage. Unless it is a strong or superior Kadri. But right now he's just a Doflamingo. He can't even last more than 10 minutes fighting against any of them. Everyone saw as Okainu's body slowly twisted and the magma began to reform his body. However, at the end of the reform, there was still a serious wound on his shoulder, causing his blood to flow continuously, making Akainu's face extremely ugly. Bastard! He gritted his teeth, not expecting someone like Doflamingo to injure him, and the wound needed to be treated in time, otherwise, too much blood flow would have a great impact on him later. Without thinking twice, he took out a bean and ate it. No one around commented on the magic of the Senzu bean, which could quickly heal the wound, as everyone's attention was drawn to the air cannon on Doflamingo's finger. How powerful is this toy-like thing? Too outrageous. Doflamingo actually injured an admiral with a single shot. All the prisoners are characters from this era and they understand perfectly well how big the gap in strength is between the two. And it turned out that a mere invention could allow Doflamingo, A mere 7 warlords of the seas, to injure a KNU with a single blow. Fortunately, a KNU has evasion. Otherwise, if he hits a vital part like the heart or head, wouldn't it mean a one-shot kill? A dead admiral? Everyone was in complete shock. Although the powers from the ancient era didn't understand Doflamingo's battle level, which has risen in the past 10 years, that didn't stop them from being shocked by this air cannon. They are all battle-hardened powers and none of them are simple characters. Naturally, they know not to underestimate the strength of those who can become admirals of the Marines. Even they themselves cannot guarantee that a single blow can reach the rank of admiral. Bullet's heart trembled and he said a little excitedly, "If I could use my devil fruit ability to fuse with this weapon, wouldn't it be unstoppable?" On the other hand, the horrified expression on the Red Count's face was beyond words. Sweat appeared on his forehead and he couldn't help but exclaim. Such a seemingly simple device actually combines the abilities of Conqueror's Hockey, Armament Hockey, and Devil Fruit. But that's not the most terrifying point of it. This even exceeds the scope of Observation Hockey, meaning it can interfere with your prediction, although for the strong it only slightly interferes, but the danger is there. After all, a small difference in battle power can decide a fight between two powers. Everyone around was stunned when they heard this statement. Sengoku looked at Garp and asked, "Is what the Red Count said true, Garp?" In the Marines, the most well-versed in armament hockey is Garp, so Sengoku's question was well-founded. Garp smiled ironically and solemnly said, "Yes, it is." Chapter 111, in Impel Down, 2, Sengoku looked deeply at the air cannon on Doflamingo, Kaido, Big Mom, and others' fingers, and muttered, "The scientific disaster has put in more effort than we thought. Its level of danger is no longer a joke. If we lose this battle, we can only leave this matter to the world government. I can't keep sending my troops to commit suicide just to steal small amounts of Senzubins and universal capsules, not to mention that door that we haven't even been able to touch." Tsuru couldn't help but say on the side, "I finally understand why the previous information said that Kaido and Big Mom can use the air cannon to overthrow an entire 4 Emperor's regiment on their own." Seeing everyone around him being shocked by the air cannon, Kaido couldn't help but burst into laughter. He was extremely proud at that moment and pushed Jigen to the front of the stage. "This is the latest invention of our scientific disaster. Okay, and you have deep knowledge. How do you feel? Is it very bitter?" Big Mom, who was standing next to him, also came out to stroke her sense of existence and said, "Now you know how terrible our alliance is. Ha 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 ha, mama. Marine, I advise you to surrender quickly, otherwise there will be a damn storm later." Big Mom and the other members were all excited. The technology invented by the scientific disaster made Marine shrink, and the scene where a KMU was completely suppressed boosted everyone's morale, and everyone shouted Jigen's name on the 6th floor of Impel Down. Under Jigen Sama's technology, your Marines are trash. The entire underwater prison resonates with Jigen's name, his terror deeply engraved in everyone's minds. Especially his indifferent face. Implying that he doesn't care about tipping the world's balance and turning the world upside down with his inventions. Among the crowd, especially Jack, who is still in prison, was the most excited. He grabbed the bars and shook them desperately, saying excitedly, "Big brother, you're amazing. Finally, the world can see your face. How does it feel to instill so much fear in others?" Jack was also very excited. Jigen. Everyone. Red Earl next to him seemed disdainful. After all, he's just a child. How could he instill fear in him? That's the excuse he gave himself, and slowly his breathing returned to normal. Although these low-cultured pirates come and go, they can only say 2 words of congratulations. Jigen still smiled and accepted their congratulations. On the opposite side, Sengoku shouted loudly like a bell, and the voice of the Marine Admiral, codenamed Buddha, directly suppressed the cheers of the audience. Sengoku was like a vengeful king, with a majestic face and a temperament that made people feel inviolable. His voice exploded throughout the underwater prison and said, Don't you feel guilty for joining those bastards? You're a scientist, you're expected to have the pride of one. You could have brought happiness to the world and brought light to the world, but you chose to join the beast pirates. Abandon the bright and embrace the darkness, be a useless pirate." Sengoku began to persuade him, and after a while, he said with a deep voice, "The scientific disaster. No. I should call you Jigen. How about joining the Marines? We, the Marines, will definitely give you the best treatment, and your inventions will live on forever in the hearts of everyone. You will become the greatest scientist of this era and be praised by future generations, instead of being cursed by everyone." Kaido was not happy at that moment. He was about to speak harshly, but Jigen responded preemptively. "Sengoku, don't you feel guilty saying this? In this chaotic era, who is right and who is wrong? The so-called justice is ultimately named by the victor. Or isn't this the story of the world government you serve, a story they named? Jigen stared at Sengoku's pale face and continued. What's the matter, cat got your tongue? Will you deny that those 5 old fogies believe they own the world and do as they please? What happened to God Valley before that battle? Will you deny that it was a killing field for those disgusting Tenryubitos to have fun killing innocents? Where were you at that time, or at Ohara, the biggest genocidal incident by the Marines in conjunction with the world government? Suddenly, the entire 6th floor fell completely silent. Even Kaido and Big Mom opened their eyes seriously. In my opinion, joining the Beast's Pirates was the best decision I made. Otherwise, I would be joining your Marines, wanting to be a lackey of the Tenryubitos. Creating innovations for their tyrannical supremacy, so they can rule for another 900 years and continue trampling on the dignity of many kingdoms, so they can keep killing innocents just because they believe they are celestial beings and should not be defiled. Gomen. Kodo Oru. I'm sorry, but I refuse, Jigen smiled arrogantly. What's the matter? Do you want me to keep talking? Or have you given up on trying to recruit me? I can spend the whole day exposing your supposed ideal. You're just another hypocrite on the list, just like the Takagami guy. Although I still don't know your backstory for continuing to support the actions of the world government, I can say that your supposed ideal is complete garbage, Admiral Sengoku. Jigen's words immediately made everyone look at him in a new light. Especially the entire Beast Pirates Alliance, as well as the prisoners. If they previously thought he was just a kid who enjoyed turning the world upside down, now they know he is more than that. Sengoku had no words to deny such statements, or rather, he didn't have the basis to counter those words. Jigen dramatically opened his arms and said madly, you know, I'm really interested in the history that the world government holds, and I won't rest until I unearth its remains. Jigen deliberately raised his voice. The D family has been hidden in the shadow of history. I wonder where and when they will show themselves. Who will ally with whom? Who will betray whom? Tell the Tenryubitos and marry each Ois. They will be dragged down. The number of pirates is increasing. And there is supposedly an empty seat. Sengoku widened his eyes at this. Until now, he had thought Jigen was just a brilliant scientist who was influenced by Kaido. But he never imagined that he would know so many secrets, even that. You know what I'm talking about, right? Soon it will begin. The greatest battle for supremacy in pirate history. Jigen smiled madly and brought out 2 air cannons in each of his hands. And I will be in it. Sengoku tensed up upon seeing this, but he wouldn't be the fleet admiral of the Marines if he didn't have a quick response. It's bad, everyone get away. Sengoku's robust body quickly transformed into his Buddha form. 4 bursts of power shot out from the mouths of the 4 cannons in Jigen's hands. Towards Sengoku. Boom. There was an extremely fierce collision. Conqueror's haki flashed everywhere, causing many characters to fall unconscious. Sengoku tried to stop the tremendous collision that not even an admiral could stop, but it wasn't enough. So he slowly began to retreat. Jigen had asked Kaido beforehand to fill the capacity of these 4 cannons before coming to impel down. It was as if 4 Kaidos were crashing into Sengoku. That's how Sengoku felt at this moment. Garp on the side was going to try to help, but Kaido was quick and intercepted him. Kaido, damn it, do you really intend to destroy Impel Down? The world government already has you on their list, with this you will only make headlines. Do you still remember the incident at God Valley? Don't be too arrogant, because you will pay dearly for it. Garp clenched his fists infused with haki. Garp, I don't care about that at all. I only know that today the stage is set for my dear subordinate. I must say his performance has been incredible, so I won't allow you to ruin it. Kaido smiled as he wielded his mace. Garp gritted his teeth in extreme anger. If Impel Down fell, things would become really problematic for them. Big Mom, on the other hand, also saw the intention of Kizaru, Okainu, and Okiji to help, and she also intervened. You insolent brats, why don't you play with that mama. I didn't expect Jigen to know so much about this disgusting world. He has gained another level of respect in my heart. Luckily I am on his side. Napoleon. Yes. Mama. Big Mom took Napoleon in her hands while Zeus and Prometheus positioned themselves to her right and left respectively. Alright, enough of this senseless chatter, let the show begin. Chapter 112, Jigen's Show, 1, Damn it, if I don't stop him, the entire 6th floor will flood. This guy, isn't he afraid of being buried along with Impel Down? Sengoku thought as he tried to halt the enormous amount of energy from the 4 air cannons. Obviously, he couldn't take this attack head-on, otherwise he would be left half dead. He may be the fleet admiral, but this cannon cannot be underestimated. Boom. With a look of annoyance, he successfully redirected the attack upwards. Boom. The massive collision ascended floor after floor, until it emerged from the top of Impel Down and vanished into the sky. Haha, you really caused a mess, kid. Sengoku perspired heavily as someone quickly approached him and handed him a senzu bean. Jigen, on the other hand, did not react to these words. Instead, he calmly smiled again. But I am right, aren't I? Tell me, Fleet Admiral, does this world truly belong to us, or does it only belong to the world government? Jigen's question caused a commotion throughout the underwater floor. Living in this era and becoming a great prisoner of this era. Everyone is greatly disgusted with the world government and its drastic and arrogant measures. And now Jigen mentioned that he has no interest in being a lackey for the celestial dragons, which immediately stirred sympathy from everyone. Even prisoners with high bounties applauded him. That's right. These bastards don't deserve to live in this world. They think they are heavenly beings and untouchable, but they are nothing more than monsters allowed to do whatever they please. Everyone roared, and for a while, the situation here leaned towards the side of the beast pirates. On the opposite side, the expressions of the Marines were extremely ugly. Only Garp cursed a little. He wanted to speak, but when he saw Sengoku's fierce eyes, he fell silent. What are you thinking? Sengoku whispered. Don't think foolishly now, Garp. Sengoku realized Jigen's intention to lower the morale of his army. Such a basic strategy. How could he not notice? But what bothered him the most was not that, it was that Garp had a doubtful look on his face. It is really inappropriate to doubt in a situation like this, especially for a figure like Garp, who inspires the majority of the present Marines. And then what? Garp suddenly asked. What will you do once you destroy the order of this world? From my perspective, you will only become another power addict. Garp. Silence. Sengoku clenched his teeth. However, Garp ignored him. Tell me, what do you want to do next? Garp was known for being stubborn. Jigen smiled. He truly expected this question. My captain has no interest in ruling the world. Finding the One Piece and overthrowing the world government is enough fun for him to retire peacefully. On the other hand, I would like to support forces like the Marines to create a new world system, one where they don't take orders from anyone. I will contribute all my inventions to end this pirate era completely, and I will support them wholeheartedly, just as I am supporting my captain. How about it? Does this answer convince you, Vice Admiral Garp? Garp looked deeply into Jigen's eyes. This child. Garp was truly touched by Jigen's determined gaze. Right now, your words are nothing but fantasies. Although you have created miracles, it is still not enough to even budge the world government. Kaido and Linlin know this very well. Garp continued to test Jigen. But I never said those were my final works. I have projects that would make even the great mind of old Vegapunk explode completely. What do you say, Garp? I know how much you hate those world nobles. Why don't you join us? Not as a subordinate, of course, but as an alliance partner. This will make the battle less enduring. And believe me when I say that I have even more terrifying toys than this simple cannon. Jigen pressed on. Jigen's words surprised the crowd. If he considers this air cannon, which almost left the fleet admiral half dead, as simple, how much more powerful are his other projects? Garp, this is serious. Don't say something you might regret. Sengoku gave his old friend a final warning. Garp remained silent for a few seconds. Even the prisoners from the ancient era were in complete shock. They didn't dare to even breathe. If Garp really joins the Beast's pirates, this will be unprecedented news. Finally, Garp spoke. I know, Sengoku. I'm not a child anymore, don't worry. Garp reassured Sengoku. Seeing this, Sengoku finally breathed a sigh of relief, while Jiren shook his head. What a shame. I thought I could get more information about the D family from you, old man. No matter, at least you serve to explain my intentions to the world. Jigen glanced at a Marine who had a microphone attached to his chest. Naturally, they were being recorded. He's probably someone who works for Morgans. Jigen concluded in his mind. Morgans had his nose in everything at the Marine headquarters. Well, this makes it easier. He thought. Everyone, my proposal is not only directed at Vice Admiral Garp, but also at all of you. Don't you want to end the tyranny and genocide of the world government? If you join the Beast's pirates and manage to rise through the ranks, you will have access to all officially shown technologies and more. Jiren declared with delight. Damn it, you brat. Kizaru. Sengoku shouted as he saw Kizaru create an opening while being held back by Big Mom. Yes, Sengoku-san. That was my intention from the beginning. Kizaru responded annoyedly as he quickly moved towards Jigen. Child, you have caused too much headache. If you don't intend to join us, then you can only die.